Okay, I'm out in Sutton at the high school. This was quite a project. Just getting here, and then no one can answer the phone inside because I think the Wi-Fi is off. So I'm going to make an attempt to go in, but I don't even know where the meeting is at this point. And I'm late. And then I called the police to see if they could tell me which entrance, and the police department for Sutton said they didn't know. They've never been here. And there's 2 cop cars right there. It's so weird. Anyway, I hope I can get in here. School committee through courtyard. Doors are opening at 7. Well, that must be where it is. So, through the courtyard. Supposed to have elevators. I don't know where they are. Oh yeah, this. There's an elevator. Okay, so now I'm out. So, if I had walked up to the door, I would have seen the sign. It's kind of a pretty place, the way it's designed. Before it, please sign in. Okay.
Impact of what we do. So in the conversation over the past couple of weeks, about 10 years ago when I got here, this is what we offered here at Sutton High School. And Sutton High School is great. Again, I love working here. I love the community. I love my job. I don't want to work anywhere else. But we've worked hard over the past 10 years to offer all sorts of opportunities and programs and projects for kids because we know that every kid goes through high school a little bit differently. So right now you think, based on what we're talking about, this is the only program that Sutton High School offers. This is what Sutton High School offers. If you look at all those green words up there, we've added so many different programs over the past couple of years. And that's because of the hard work of the staff, because they're dedicated to making this place as good as it possibly can be for our kids. We've added the senior internship program, which is wrapping up right now, where every single one of our seniors is placed out in the community getting real world experience. We've added a financial wellness graduation requirement so our kids are better prepared for the real world. We've added an engineering program, a business program. Our esports team, did you know that was a thing? Our esports team just won the state championship, all the while maintaining the high level academics that Sutton has always been known for. So while we're gonna have a conversation tonight about this, I hope you don't forget it. That's one thing, one part of Sutton High School. And if you don't want to be in Connections, you don't have to be in Connections. Just like I don't have to be on the esports team, or in DECA, or in any other club. It's completely optional. None of it is required. And so what I get somewhat frustrated with is when we want to tell some kids that they can belong in some things, but other kids that they can't belong in that. Because what we try to do is provide things for everybody. And so no matter what sort of interest or passion you might have here at the high school, we're trying to put together a program that works for you. So why do we have Connections in the first place? Well, certainly we don't want to be one of these schools. And these are some headlines that I got off Mass Live, the Boston Globe in the past, I don't know, I'd say year. Sutton doesn't want to be one of these towns. We don't want, Channel 7 News coming to Sutton about some racial incident that happened on the soccer team, or some, bullying incident that happened in the school. We want to avoid this. We also don't want our kids to be part of these stories. The Fairfield University ghetto party that was a couple years ago, where kids went to a party at Fairfield in blackface because they were going to ghetto parties. The headline below was a 9th grade girl who once on social media said the N-word. Somebody recorded it, held on to it, and when that girl applied for college 4 years later, it was shared with the college and she lost her scholarship. We don't want our kids being one of these kids. We certainly don't want our kids on social media. Here you have two sets of kids, one you see the face blurred out, the other one's a group of kids. Group of kids who have arranged their beer pong cups in the shape of a swastika and put themselves on social media. The other one, a white student using the N-word, saying kill all the N-words. We don't want our kids to be these kids because these things follow people around for the rest of their lives. The other reason why we have connections is for basic understanding of how kids work. One of the things I've heard recently is, we just want school to get back to reading, writing, and arithmetic. I get that. It's pretty hard to focus on reading if you're being called a homophobic slur. It's pretty hard to focus on math if all of your white friends call you the N-word and no one does anything about it, or you believe your school doesn't care. This is how kids learn. Love and belonging, esteem, and then self-actualization. If they don't think that they belong to a community, they're not going to learn. Or there's certainly schools that support LGBTQ youth, students of color, disabled students, whatever group you want to say, students who live in schools where those kids are supported have better outcomes in the long term. LGBTQ plus young people who live in a community that is accepting of LGBTQ people reported much lower rates of attempting suicide. As someone who's gone through a few suicides in my career, I can tell you it is a horrible, horrible thing, no matter what the reason. And certainly we want to take steps in our community to make sure that it doesn't happen to any of our students here. Beyond sort of like taking care of the kids, it's also part of what we're expected to do as teachers. So here are some selected standards from Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. I'm not going to read them to you because we'd be here all night. We're going to be here anyway. But we have history, health, and language. You can also find similar themes in English as well. Here are the Massachusetts social emotional learning workplace skills. Again, I'm not going to read them to you, but you can see them here. All of this will be on the Tyrants YouTube channel if you want it. And if anyone wants the slide, I can certainly share it with you. This is also how we're evaluated as teachers and administrators. So these are two indicators from the rubrics where teachers and administrators are evaluated. Again, you can see language that touches on what we're talking about here tonight. So, okay, here in Sutton, so why do we care about that? Sutton's a great place, it's a great community. This doesn't happen here. Here's our mission statement for the district. The Sutton Learning Community cultivates a positive, collaborative, engaging, and safe environment that fosters academic excellence, social responsibility, personal growth, and lifelong learning. That's what we are charged to do by the citizens of Sutton. This is a survey question that our students took in the mid-year survey. I've heard or seen peers making unkind comments about someone based on their religious, racial, ethnic, or sexual orientation. 40% of our students are still reporting that they're hearing these things in the halls here in Sutton. 40% is a lot. It's not 2%, it's not a couple of things, it's 40%. And so we have a responsibility to work on that because these are our kids. This is the mission statement for Sutton Connections. You can see that it lines up pretty well with our district mission statement. So why do we need connections? We're making sure that we're taking care of all of our students, regardless of their race, gender, sexual orientation. It prepares all of our students for expectations of the world beyond Sutton, hopefully preventing incidents that could significantly impact their future. Makes our school a more inclusive place where all students are welcome, meets the requirements of how teachers and administrators in schools are expected to work with our students and communities. So this is what we do in Connections. This is just a general annual timeline. So in the fall, the Connections students, the kids who are on the Connections team, get trained by a social justice trainer. They talk about things like racism and phobias and all those good stuff. This is an optional program that your child does not have to participate in if they don't want. Every year, we have about 40 kids who apply to the Connections program. So if everybody who applied to the Connections program got in, at this point, we'd have about 120 kids in the Connections program. Obviously, that's not a workable group. We don't ask Mike Elster to work with 75 soccer players, even though everybody in this town plays soccer, right? So there is an application process. Select, depending on the year, 10, 12, 15, whatever it is, the number of kids are. And then those kids are part of the group. After going to that training, the club meets once a week or once a rotation, like the other clubs here in the school, like the Environmental Club or Student Council or National Honor Society. Again, all optional clubs. In January, every 9th grade family is mailed a letter about the workshops that we do with the 9th graders. Those workshops talk about the issues that we're talking about tonight. What's diversity? What's implicit bias? What's explicit bias? How to be an upstander? How to intervene when you see an issue of racism or homophobia? Because that's what we want for our kids. I know I have 2 kids, they're 25 and 22 now. Like my son's we're gonna be a firefighter, and my daughter's a 3rd grade teacher. I would hope at this point in their lives, if they saw somebody in the street being unkind, being racist, being homophobic, that they would intervene. Because as good humans, that's what we're expected to do. And that's what we want for our kids as well. But our kids are kids, and they need to be taught these things. What do I say if my friend says the N-word and I feel uncomfortable confronting him? What do I do if my friend makes a homophobic joke and that doesn't sit well with me, but I still want to be friends with him? These are the kinds of things that we talk about. Because it's probably likely that the student doesn't want to not be friends with their friend. So how do you have a conversation that lets them know that you don't like those things, but still wanting to love and care for your friend? We think those conversations are worth having with kids. And again, I'm just going to keep pointing out the option at this point. All of this is optional. If your son or daughter doesn't want to participate in the 9th grade lessons, they don't have to. If they don't want to join connections, they don't have to. The conference, we'll talk about that in a second, that actually happens on a school day that's not where there is no school in session, so kids are literally not in the building unless they choose to be. So again, the optionality of this I think is important because I think there's been some conflation based on some conversations that I've had with community members who feel like all this happened in the middle of the school day, when none of it did. And again, the idea that your students being forced or indoctrinated or made to think a certain way is just simply not part of the facts. What does Connections do? It teaches our students about isms and phobias and why they are harmful in our school and society. It helps students how different people have different experiences based on who they are. It teaches students how to intervene when they see an act of hatred or bigotry. It encourages students to make our school feel a place where everyone feels included, valued, and loved. What does Connections not do? Tell straight white students that they are racist or homophobic. Tell students that they should feel guilty about who they are. Tell kids that America, Sutton is a racist country or town. Require students to participate in any of this or discuss politics at all, push one agenda over the other. I think one of the things that I've heard in the conversations I've had with folks is about the fear that their students are being made to feel guilty for being white or affluent or any of those things. And I can just tell you that as someone who's invested in kids doing their best, guilt is a horrible motivator. I would never want you to feel guilty about who you are because that's not going to get you to stand up for others. I do not feel guilty about being a white straight male. But I do recognize that my experience in the world is different than others. And an example that we try to use is, if you are in a wheelchair, you have to think about what restaurants you go to, how you get into certain buildings, how you get around, all these kinds of things. I never have to think about that. I never have to think about that. And so I don't feel guilty that I'm not in a wheelchair. But I do want to recognize that folks in wheelchairs have to maneuver through the world a little bit differently based on something that they probably had no control over. Or even if they did, that's just who they are right now. And so that's what we're trying to get our kids to say. Not that you should feel bad about where you live or who you are, because again, I think Sutton's a great place and I think America's the best country in the world. They shouldn't feel bad about any of it. But we should recognize that our job, again, as good human beings, is to look out for each other and to treat each other with kindness, grace, and love, because that's the communities that we want to live in. So the conference. The conference has been happening since 2019. Started on a half day the first year, then we COVIDed out, and then the past 3 years we've been in person. The conference is attended, here. The conference is usually attended by about 50 schools every year, about 600 kids. This auditorium is completely packed. We actually have overflow in the cafeteria. And it offers a variety of workshops, not just drag queens. It offers a variety of workshops on topics related to social justice. So here are some sample workshop titles: Disability is Diversity, Standing Up to Anti-Semitism, Social Media and Social Justice, Ways to Fake Hates Online, Fostering Student Agency to Make a Positive Change in Your School, you can see. So there's a wide range, and again, nothing's ever been taken down, it's all up there. Feel free to go to the agenda yourself and see all the different types of workshops that have been offered. Here are some supporting organizations. So NEASC is our main financial supporter. NEASC is the organization that gives us our accreditation so that when our students apply to colleges, our transcripts are accepted by those colleges and our students can get into those colleges. NEASC thinks so highly of our conference and the work we do in this area that they are trying to replicate it in Connecticut. The MIA similarly sponsors us. The Martin Richard Institute for Social Justice, that's Bridgewater State's program, Clark University, the Anti-Defamation League, these are all partners that we've been working with for years. I know there have been questions about who pays for the conference. So, as I mentioned, the conference happens on a professional development day. So the lights are already on, the staff are already being paid, the janitors are already here. All of that is part of the operating budget. The electricity, the supplies, the paper, the markers, those are all things that we have already purchased. What is paid for by connections and private corporate donations, the keynote speaker fees, t-shirts, the lunches, the stickers, all that stuff. What is free? All the people who donate their time, like Worcester Pride or Shrewsbury High School, all the organizations, the ADL, all those organizations donate their time to come to a workshop, to come to a conference and present a workshop to kids because they have the same mission as we do. They want to make the world a kinder place. I know there have been questions about the grant. I know, and I think Ben Gibbons has spoken about this. Ben Gibbons himself called DESE. DESE approved the grant. There was no misappropriation of the grant. The grant was, we have a cell phone grant to minimize the harmful effects of social media in school. Around February, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to be able to get a keynote speaker on that topic because the keynote speaker that we got nicely donated his fee. So we didn't need to pay him. And so unless we wanted to turn the money back, we had to find a way to use that money on a keynote speaker. As it so happened, the closing speaker for Connections talked about the harmful effect that social media had on their life. So while we did use the cell phone grant line item for a keynote speaker for Connections, it was also serving Sutton kids. Was it serving other kids as well? Yeah, it was. Just like we let Millbury use our gym when they played in the state basketball tournament, or Millbury lets us use their field when our fields don't work. I didn't really see anything wrong with a school helping out other schools and providing an opportunity. Again, had the speaker charged us, we wouldn't even be talking about this, and we just would have paid for it out of our other account. So all that said, every year in our school, and just for you to know, every year in our school we survey our students and our teachers twice a year, just because we're constantly looking to improve what we do here at the school. The conference is no different. So here are some changes that we are going to make at the conference. Clear guidelines to the presenters about expectations. Again, we've never had an issue in the 5 years that we've had the conference. I don't imagine that we're going to have one again, but we will be crystal clear about what's expected and what's not. Although the agenda is published 2 weeks in advance, we are going to make sure that it's published 2 weeks in advance so that anyone who has any questions can ask them. We are going to evaluate whether or not we should charge schools to attend the conference. Again, some of it is where the school is already open, so charging it for things seems redundant, but we are going to evaluate if that's an issue. And again, even though the students who attend the conference have permission from their parents, and certainly the Connections students from the high school have signed parent permission to be in part of Connections. Just because people are asking questions, we're going to ask even if your kid already isn't part of Connections and you sign a permission slip to come to the conference, we're going to have people sign a permission slip again. And then finally, because the conference is so popular every year, we have about 200 students and about 20 schools who want to attend the conference that we can't accommodate just because of our size. We are exploring seeing if we could have the conference at a college or university. One thing that has been talked about a lot is the other side. What about the other side? And I really struggled with that question. In every conversation that I've had with folks, I've asked them what the other side is, because this is what Connections is. Tolerance, understanding, grace, compassion, and respect. What's the other side? I don't know, because I'm assuming that even if you had questions about whether or not we should have had a drag queen here, I know you don't want a more racist school, a less understanding school, a less tolerant school. I know that's what nobody in this audience wants. So what's the other side? As I mentioned, we don't talk about politics, and I think unfortunately in this country right now, when you talk about certain things, they immediately become politicized. We never say the word Democrat, Republican. We never say the word Republican, liberal. They're just not things that we say. And so, and it's been interesting in the conversations that I've had with the adults over the past couple of weeks, we start talking about Connections or the drag queen or something along those lines, but then it quickly gets to the protest about Palestine on campus, or other things that are so far beyond what we actually do here with the kids. It's just not what we do. And I'm sorry if you don't believe that, but that's the facts. And I can't have a conversation about something that is simply not true. I get that, again, some people might think that because we're talking about things that sort of, what's the word I would use, color more on one side of the political persuasion or other. I can't account for that. My dad was a lifelong Republican. He was the least racist person that I've met. And so I don't equate someone being conservative or being Republican with being racist, or homophobic, or transphobic. So I just don't know what the other side is. And I'm sure someone tonight is going to say, well, the other side is something else. And maybe, and if there's a good answer for that, I'm happy to listen to it and factor it into what we do.
Why don't you start with transparency? Accountability.
So I don't know how more transparent and accountable I can be, other than getting up in front of 100 people and talking about it. But if you want to have a conversation after the meeting, I'm happy to talk. As I've been happy to talk for the entire time since this has happened. I've been available. And every single person who's called me, every single one, I've had a conversation with. What I'm not going to do is engage with people on social media. I'm just not going to, because I don't think it's productive. And I can't talk to people who don't talk to me. So again, I'm happy to be accountable and transparent. I am literally up here right now. Well, again, I apologize for that.
We're
I
all
apologize for
human.
that.
We're all human. The other side is the same side. We're all human.
Okay. I'm going to finish up so that we can get to your participation. What is the impact? Again, as I mentioned, every year we survey the kids, and here's what they say. I feel the adults in our school truly care about me. 92% of our kids feel that the adults in their school truly care about them. My school is committed to making sure all of our students feel valued, regardless of race, gender, and sexual orientation. 92%. I think those are pretty good numbers. And I don't think they happen by accident. I think they happen because we have all sorts of programs for all sorts of kids. Because that's what we're supposed to do as a school. I have a couple of student quotes that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to finish up. I'm a senior at Sutton High School and a 3-year member of Connections. This year's Comic-Con was the 3rd one I've attended, and in my opinion, the best yet. Once a year, the school is filled with future leaders hoping to make the world a safer place, one community at a time. One step in doing so is making sure everyone feels their voices are heard and their identities are seen. As a member of the queer community myself, I cannot put into words the joy I felt when attending the Don't Be a Drag, Be a Queen workshop at the conference, but I will try anyway. Being in that room made me feel just like everyone else. I was no longer just a trans kid, but someone who was valued. I felt safe, I felt at home. That's one of our current students. This is an alumni. Connections teaches us that we're all generally stronger together, and that our voice is going to be and always will be our strongest weapon. Connections continually brings people together with the idea that everyone, no matter your skin color, gender, identity, sexual orientation, or background, that we all believe in the same thing today. We're closer as a community, and the closer we are as a community, the stronger we are. This is a graduate from the class of 2018. I will forever be grateful to the staff at Sutton High School who helped put together Connections, as well as those who keep it running. I learned important skills in communication, which now, looking back from where I am, I'm so thankful that time was allotted in Connections to hone in on those skills. I distinctly remember hearing a quote at one meeting that still makes an impact on me. Listen with the intent to understand, not to respond. Connections, however, is not just about academics, but about real life. In my time in Connections Group, I gained skills that made my transition into college easier. I was able to speak to students with completely different backgrounds than me, and I was able to create meaningful experiences with students who came from different types of education systems, and I was able to adjust them to the real world easier than some of the students I saw around me. I am shocked to see such an uproar about a club that gave me these tools and surrounding the school and made me the passionate learner and educator that I am today. There's a quote that I like, and it says, "In no other capacity is a problem solved by not talking about it." We have problems. Racism, homophobia, sexism, transphobia, those are problems. And they don't get solved by not talking about them. And if I go back to this slide, I think we all want our kids to be in a school where they feel valued and loved. And if I'm a trans kid at Sutton High School, what's my experience if I feel my school is going to turn a blind eye to me? If I'm a student with disabilities at Sutton High School, what's my experience at Sutton High School if I feel like my school is going to turn a blind eye to me? Everything we do here at this school, from Connections to the business program, to esports, to soccer, to AP classes, it's all geared into helping kids be the best humans they can possibly be. That's all we're trying to do. And I understand that for some people this is personal. I get it. It's personal for me too. because I've just been in too many conversations with kids in my 30 years in education where they've been on the other side of this. And as an educator, I feel like it's my moral imperative to make every kid feel like they're part of our community. Not all of the kids, every individual kid. Because all of our kids go through schools in different ways. Some of them are athletes, some of them really like class, some of them like engineering, whatever it is. And unless I see individual kids, unless we see individual kids for who they are and their individual needs, then they're not going to get the education they need and they're not going to be the best humans they can be. And so again, I understand if you think that the drag queen didn't belong in school. And again, I would say it wasn't in school. It was in a space in an event. I get it. I appreciate your point of view. I would refer you back to the student's response. If you didn't want to be in the drag queen conference or workshop, you didn't have to go to it. If you didn't want to go to the Connections conference, you didn't have to go to it. If you didn't want to be in Connections, you didn't have to go to it.
Where are the quotes from the students who left because they felt uncomfortable?
We'll have a conversation as Chairman Gibbons.
That's why we're here.
We're here.
Let's open it up.
We're hiding it.
Just trying to hide it. Yeah. Make it think it's gonna go away. You never go away.
Ashamed of himself.
We're now going to open it up for public discussion. We're going to do this in as orderly as a fashion as possible. I know there are many of you who indicated they want to speak and be heard by this committee. So, with that being said, I will dismiss by section. You can use either microphone. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, just so we're not here until 3 or 4 a.m. We're going to stick pretty hard to those 3 minutes, so please be respectful of other speakers and each other's times. I'm also going to ask that there aren't side conversations or side comments being made while people are speaking, mostly because what you say is obviously public record. So we need to make sure that that's occurring, and so that way we can hear you and you speak clearly through the microphone.
I'm here.
So we're going to start with this section over here. I know a couple people already stood up, which is fine. Just want to make sure that we're doing it by section in kind of an orderly manner. So those lights are really bright, so sorry. So 3 minutes. You need to please state your name and the town that you live in. We should already have your full address on the sign-in sheet.
I don't have to move.
We will compile a list of questions if there are any asked, and we'll do our best to get to all of those questions. After everyone goes, we'll take a recess. We'll go through those questions, make sure they're all combined and compiled in case people are asking kind of similar questions. And then we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. Okay? All right. As soon as the clock starts, you're welcome to begin.
My name is Jim Griffin. I live in Sutton. I attended the last school committee meeting. There were a number of questions asked directly of the school committee about really governance. Who makes the decisions to do these things? What's involved in that? I think you addressed the financial issue, but I have not heard, I don't know if that comes out on Facebook or where it comes out, but there were a number of questions asked directly of you people at the last school committee. When could we expect an answer to any of those questions?
Anyone else from this section?
Kathleen Huggins, resident of Sutton.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we not going to get answers tonight, or are we just going to get the same thing we got last year?
After everyone asks their questions and goes, we'll take a recess and compile those questions, and the committee and those involved will do their best to answer each and every question.
So there's a high likelihood we will never get an answer to some of these questions.
That's not fair. We want to know tonight, not next week. We pay our salary. We should know.
child development with a focus on neurology and pediatric psychology. Gender identity is an unfalsifiable, therefore unscientific theory. It is a belief system which the schools present to our children as if it were fact. Red flag. 20 years ago, the adolescent females struggling with gender dysphoria with no demonstrable childhood history of the condition were unheard of. Today, they make up 70% of those presenting to gender clinics for medical intervention. This is a huge shift in demographic, and it involves the very group historically known for social contagion. Red flag. According to the internet, the following are signs you might be trans. You're uncomfortable in your body, feeling awkward in social situations, feeling like you don't fit in, struggling with a sense of self. I just described adolescence. Red flag. Many detransitioners have mentioned social media as a catalyst for them seeking hormones and surgeries. Red flag. I asked a trans-identified adolescent if she noticed that all the trans kids she knows are female and why she thinks that is. If boys wouldn't sexualize us so much, we wouldn't have to. Red flag. Trevor Project's Trevor Space, a safe space for LGBTQ youth, is an online forum that provides private chat rooms for minors to talk about sex and gender with adult strangers who, quote, understand them. This is a known predator tactic. Red flag. Teachers in our school system are encouraged to hand out forms that include questions about preferred name and pronouns, and whether the teacher should keep this information from the parents, effectively teaching kids it is okay for them to share a secret with an adult who's a stranger to their families. Red flag. It also allows teachers no therapeutic background or knowledge of a student's personal or family history to implement a social transition. According to the CAS report, this is not benign, but is an active intervention with the potentially lasting consequences that should not be undertaken without appropriate clinical training. Every medical organization worldwide that has done a systematic review of the evidence has pulled back from the affirmative model, but the Massachusetts Board of Education calls for immediate affirmation with no parental consent or medical evaluation required. Red flag. Couple of seconds left. I have more, but obviously only 3 minutes. There's a lot more red flags. I'll end by saying I do not think that our school staff are nefarious people. I believe them to be very caring and well-intended. However, sometimes you're so busy waving other flags, you barely see all the red ones.
Get on the microphone if you want to speak.
Anyone else from this section over here?
Is this our section?
We'll do this part first, please.
Go for it.
Everyone who wishes to speak can do so. Just please wait so we can hear from everyone. Thank you.
Rauf Mankaris, I'm a Sutton resident for 20 years. You should be fired for allowing a guy in a woman underwear to dance before the children. The police should arrest you and should investigate the video. Because a guy in a woman underwear to dance before the children. If a guy walks in here in underwear, he's gonna be arrested. You should be fired. You guys should all be recalled for allowing him to stay.
Yeah, it's your
Okay?
responsibility.
And the other side is the people who believe in Almighty God, in Jesus Christ. We don't allow the people who believe in God in here. So anyone who believes, a psycho who believes that he is a man believes he is a lady, that's just a belief. If you don't allow his belief, allow also Christ to be in here.
Amen. Hurrah.
Anyone else from this section over here?
Oh no. Hey, Sarah.
Hello, I'm Julia Trindick. I'm a teacher over at the Simonian Center. I just wanted to share right now for you. I know there's different opinions about what happened. I know there's different opinions about what happened at the conference. However, I want to share with you from my perspective as a teacher, when we're in lockdown and I have dogs sniffing outside my classroom and my kids are scared, that tells me that there's an issue, okay? There's an issue that people just need to let things go. my little kids, it's not just up here, it's trickling down all the way through. And it's really impacting our community as a whole, and it's not right. So.
Anyone else in this section? Okay, we'll move to this middle section down the floor then.
Robert, go.
Hi, my name is Robert Alice. I'm actually running, I live in Medford, but I'm actually running for U.S. Senate against Elizabeth Warren. And I know that... Could you start that time, please? If I am so fortunate as to end up in the United States Senate, it is supposed to be the greatest delivered to body in the world. And I want to... And you take the poodle that you love to the pet store in the room. It's very calming. But I think I've found a new way for parents who are afraid that they're going to have a different kid greet them at the end of the school day than the one that they sent. And it's to understand that the word, that it's actually, when you actually groom someone intentionally, it's like kidnapping. It's the opposite of, it's kidnapping, it's a virtual kidnapping. You're kidnapping from the inside to the outside. And when you start to think of it, I'm just starting, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. That's a very important aspect of any kind of Senate race that if I were ever to be in the Senate. Of course I understand this, but I just want people to understand that there's a different way to think about grooming, and that it actually, the idea of, and it's interesting, people really like that, idea that yes, it's kidnapping from the inside out. And that's just what I want to spread, just to have a discussion and let people talk and see where it goes. And yes, and I'd be happy to have your vote as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Hi.
Uh-oh.
Sabrina Miller. I live in Sutton, Massachusetts. I'm a public speaker, so sorry. I sound a little nervous. But I am here tonight to lend my complete support to the Connections program, to the Sutton GSA, and to all LGBTQ youth. I am a proud member of the Sutton community. I'm a Sutton alumni from the class of 2012. I feel like Sutton gave me a really strong basis for the rest of my life as an adult and a professional and a person. And I'm incredibly proud of the new programs and progress that Sutton has made to become an even better community. I am horrified and disgusted by some of the things I've heard tonight, some of the things I've been reading online. So I'm here to show my support and say thank you to Principal McCarthy and the staff of Sutton High School who are working so hard and taking so much flack for the work that they're doing. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to hit this thing from a different perspective. Everybody look at me. You see, I'm not white. I've been black for 80 years. I won't turn white no time soon. I keep hearing all this talk about racism and transphobia and homophobe and all these phobias. And I saw that PowerPoint up there, but I didn't see anything about Bible clubs up there. I am a preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And many of these parents in here don't have opinions, but they have principles because they love God. And like I heard that brother over there say, and they want to know why our straight white children have pumped down their throat about sodomy, about transgenderism, about a boy can come to school one day and be a boy, and the next day he's a girl. That's a lie from hell. We have to come to reality. There's no truth in that nonsense. It's damnable. And as a minister of the gospel, I encourage every parent in here that's going to stand against this lie that's been spawned out of the pits of hell, because that's where it comes from. God created male and female. Period. There's no such thing as some transgender nonsense. That's mental illness at worst and demon possession at best. You want to talk about all this race nonsense? This is nothing but diversity, equity, and inclusion and critical race theory. I don't see a black kid probably in this school, and I don't even live here. I'm a grandfather.
Right on, brother.
And if there were black kids in this school, and you were teaching my grandkids about they could be a boy on Monday, a girl on Tuesday, and a combination of both on Wednesday, we have an issue, y'all. That is pure nonsense. You can look at every person in this thing, what side are they on? All I see is male and female. Where are the other 95 genders? This is pure nonsense. What we have to do is understand that if we're going to have compassion, if we're going to come down for compassion and understanding for all, then we have to look to those who don't agree with this mess, not because of an opinion, but because of biblical principles that say sodomy is wicked.
Speaks to me. He's really smart.
Hi everyone, I'm Kim McCullen, class of 2012, current Sutton resident. And I just also want to express my support for things such as Connections Conference. I love that there's a variety of things students can participate in. It's really clear in this room tonight that not everybody feels like these are conversations they want their kids engaging in. And I think that's respectfully, while I might not agree with that, I think that's fine, that's your choice. And I love that this program is optional for that very reason. With that being said, working in higher education, I am exposed to seeing the benefit of students being able to have conversations in an educational environment where they're able to talk about things that were not firsthand for them, or maybe learn something about themselves. While I don't hold some of the marginalized identities that are talked about at Connections Conference, it would have been really helpful for me as a student here in this kind of like beautiful Sutton bubble, and I'm really proud to be from Sutton. But in our predominantly white town, it's been really nice to be able to learn about the real world. And had I been able to have that exposure as a high school student, whether I don't find these issues to be political, I know a lot of you do, then that's still fine. But just the exposure and the opportunity to engage in it is really important. And then separately, I think the last thing I'll add is I'm involved with many leadership opportunities in Worcester. And Worcester Pride, I again just want to emphasize that they're an organization that never comes to, I know people are talking about grooming, people are talking about indoctrinating. They are there as a resource for people to opt in. They do suicide prevention, which is something I can see Sutton's focused on. They do mental health support. They create an environment for people who have no other space. And so if that's not for you, if that's not something that you have the right to choose, that you don't want your children exposed to, that's fine. But I just ask that you all be respectful and allow for something that's so amazing to continue going on, so that students themselves not only have the chance to learn about what other people might have for different walks of life, but they might learn something about themselves too. So thank you.
Hi, Amy Levins. I'm running for school committee as a write-in candidate, and I would like to discuss the future DESE health and physical education frameworks. DESE is the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which provides curriculum frameworks that outline what K through 12 students should learn under each subject area. These frameworks are a guide for choosing curriculum for the district, including sex ed. School districts currently maintain control over which programs or resources to use to meet the standards. Although school districts are not required to use curriculum recommended by DESE, most default to their recommendations. Parents should know that a comprehensive sexuality education approach to teaching sex ed was utilized in making the framework revisions. The health and physical ed framework includes learning objectives that sexualize children, promote diverse sexual and gender identifications, promote abortion, and undermine parents and parental rights. Students as young as 3 years old will discuss genitalia, LGBTQ identities, and family structures, and the concept of trusted adults other than parents. Students as young as 8 will discuss puberty, sexual intercourse, services related to human sexual reproductive anatomy, diverse sexual orientations, and gender identities. Students as young as 11 will discuss how to access birth control, how to analyze their readiness for sexual activity, the positives of sexual activity in the affirmative through consent lessons that instruct on how to say yes, how to access abortion without a parent's knowledge or consent, LGBTQ orientations and identifications, and examining their family's belief about human sexuality and gender. Students as young as 14 will discuss inappropriate sexual role-playing scenarios to practice decision-making, benefits of sexual behaviors, and examining their family's beliefs. The topic of pornography is usually included. While they are warned that pornography is not a critical source for sex ed, the idea of watching porn is normalized. This is a disturbing display of sexual theories introduced to young children which can only serve to confuse them. It makes me wonder if all the information is discussed around these issues, or if it's a one-sided this is the truth philosophy. For example, during discussions of transgenderism, are you covering the growing rate of detransitioners? For example, 18-year-old Chloe Cole, who was indoctrinated, affirmed, and sent on an irreparable path at the age of 12, now finds herself abandoned by the transgender community. And the doctors that led her there, she was given puberty blockers and testosterone at 13, double mastectomy at 15. She is now a strong advocate against gender ideology. Or how about psychiatrists, such as Miriam Grossman, who has spoken against this? What about the countries that are shutting down gender clinics and halting gender-affirming care? Why are we pushing our kids to take on these serious adult content?
Hi, my name is Melly Yelig. I am a former Sutton student as well as a current college student. I was a part of Connections from the year 2019 to 2022. Thank you. In my time at Connections, I felt very welcomed in a place that was very new to me. I came from a school that was full of racism, among other issues. I, as a mixed child, was being told by white people that I wasn't black enough, I was an abomination. So coming to this school was a little scary. I came to the school with many different thoughts in my head. But when I met people at Connections, they were very welcoming and very willing to meet me and get to know me besides how I look and how I acted. The Connections Conference allows students to meet other people, learn about other topics, and just be able to immerse themselves in the real world and just things in general. Like Mr. McCarthy has already said, if you do not want to go, you do not have to go. Yes, a drag queen coming to a school might not seem like something that is normal. However, it should not be seen as something that is bad because everybody has access to the internet. If you do not want to see something, you can close your phone. Kids wanting to come to this conference should be something that they should be able to do. It should not be something that should be frowned upon. I myself, when I heard about the workshop, was absolutely ecstatic because of the fact that in my own town, I don't see that many creative people around and stuff like that. When I first saw Sutton, I thought it was just a place full of people who did normal, boring things, not creative things. Seeing Connections shows that you can be a leader, you can learn about different topics and be a good person. Yes, you may not always agree with everybody, however, that is okay. We all don't have to agree. However, we do need to take into account the fact that students should be able to feel safe in their own school. They should not feel that they have to worry about their final exam and somebody threatening them on social media because of how they look, how they dress. Schoolwork and mental health play If a student does not feel safe, they will not do well in school. If a student is trans, they should be okay with that and be supported in that aspect. If they do not feel supported, the school system should be willing to help. If a parent doesn't want to accept their child, that is a parent and child issue.
Hello, I'm Sofia Hernandez Ramos, and I am here to speak to you not only as a Connection class advisor, but I'm also here to speak to you as a parent. I will start with as a class Connection advisor. I've been teaching in Sutton for 10 years, and my first year was not the best year ever. I would walk around the hallway and I would hear the N-word from my kids, the ones that I really loved and thought. I will hear the F word towards others. I will hear bullying, and guess what, people? Bullying still happens in Sutton and in school in America. So for me, when this program came around, well, let me tell you that first year I came home and I questioned it, and I went home and I told my husband, I think I made the wrong choice after teaching for 15 years in a different school and switching schools. I don't think I'm gonna be welcomed in this place. And I wanted to leave right away. My husband said, hold on, hon, just wait. So I want to thank Mr. McCarthy for actually creating this program, because it did not only save my job and my mission in this place, but also the other students. I have seen students in the Connection program grow and blossom. I've seen them stand up and not being just a standby. I've seen them being an advocate for other students and stand up to bullying and oppression. And to me, that's what we're here for. As teachers, I don't want to feed my students' brain. I want them to have their own brain and think on their own, and this is what Connection does. It actually lets them become their own selves, find their own identity, and be who they are. And not only be who they are, but feel safe and comfortable in their own community. I've seen that, and our students are witness of that, and I see many students here in our audience, and they can actually come up and tell you that. I'm not putting them on the spot, but I'm just saying, like she was here as an alumni, our students can come and say that. Now as a parent, I have my kids' school choice. Thank you for school choice. You saved my son's life. One day he was in the school committee presenting about Connection himself, talking to you guys, telling me how Connection affected his life. I was on the other end of the screen watching him say, as a Latino queer kid, Sutton welcomed me, and that saved my life. And I'm able to be safe, I'm able to be who I am because of Connection. And because of that, my kid was able to blossom in his own way. So as a parent, I've seen the effect of Connection. As a teacher, we all see it. But as a parent, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen it. And that's powerful. The voice that this group gives to our students is amazing and empowering. And I don't know about you, but for me as a teacher, if my student has a voice out there and they make a difference, I've done my job. And that's my story.
Hi, my name is Tara, and I also have an education background. I also would like to say that I would like to see God back in the school system.
Amen.
Amen.
Because he was a big part of the United States of America, which I happen to be not only a patriot and believe in patriotism, but I also believe in the United States of America, our morals, our values, and everything that our Constitution stands for. So I want to start off with a scripture, and it's from the Bible, and it hasn't changed over the years, and it's James 4, verse 7. And it says, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and the devil will flee from you. Yes. Very important for every one of you to go home and meditate on it, especially if you're in the school system. So I want to talk about what pornography does to children. Every state in America has specific laws to protect minors under 18 from obscene materials. There's a reason for that. The harm that pornography and graphic sexual imagery does to children and teenagers that affect them. These are small children that I'm talking about as well. And the effects that people are opening these things to their world, you're robbing them of their innocence.
Yeah.
And we do not pay the school system with our taxes to teach our children these deviant ways. And so anyways, the way that it affects them for the rest of their lives is well documented by the medical profession. Some of the things it does to our children and teenagers are, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points here. So I want to say, first one is it distorts their view of sex.
Amen.
It demoralizes them and actually rewires their brain. It can lead to lifelong sexual addiction. It causes sexual dysfunction, depression, aggression, and other mental health issues, even suicide. It makes it difficult to form intimate relationships, and it makes children susceptible to sexual predators, transvestites, whatever. There's a man who's a man, there's a woman who's a woman, so that's how God made us, okay? So many states have declared pornography a public health hazard. Thank you very much. And I hope that we start electing the right people to take over our positions.
Time's up.
Hey,
Thank you.
remember that we're allowing everyone their 3 minutes to speak. Regardless of whether you agree with someone or not, they're varying views in this room and on this committee.
My name is Daniel Lamoureux. I've been a resident of Sutton for 17 years. I'm on the finance committee.
I'm gonna make a call for you. I'm sorry, I was I had to lower it.
Again, Daniel Lamoureux, Sutton resident for 17 years. I have 2 kids in the school system. I am not here to talk about the Connections Conference in any way. I'm here about the first article about the school field and complex. We're going to spend... So, the article item is to spend $20,000 or $30,000 on repairing the fields. We're already late on that. It's May. There's no grass that's going to grow in that field in June or July. So we should have started that earlier, and just wanted to point that out. And the committee's agreed that you're going to answer questions and come back with answers at some point tonight. So I'd like to ask a few questions. It's $300 per kid per sport. So that adds up each year. And we're now going to have fields which we've agreed and we've already seen in the past couple of years that we can't use during any of the playoff runs that either the boys or the girls sports go on. There's no track, so our kids run in the hallways in the winter or they run on the roads all through the spring and the fall. We have there's no turf field of any kind in all of Sutton. We have plenty of land. We're one of the only towns around that has no turf field or any track of any kind anywhere in the town. So my question is there anybody on the committee that would like to spearhead this, I guess an effort to try and bring a track and field to Sutton? And if not, if we can think about reducing or eliminating fees that parents are paying and we're not playing at our home fields, or if they are, they're full of mud. That's all I have.
Good evening. My name is James Ahern. I've been a Sutton resident for 35 years. My 2 children have gone through the Sutton school system. My grandchildren, 3, are currently in the Sutton school system. And frankly, I've never encountered anything like this, and I consider myself very open-minded, and the LGBTQ represents, I believe, a small percentage of our system, maybe our population, maybe a half of 1%, maybe 1%. Whatever it is, I'm not here to argue about that. Everybody has their own thoughts and their own inclinations, and that's fine with me. However, I don't believe it has a place for junior high and high schoolers. Even though Principal McCarthy put on a long presentation with it looked like a PowerPoint presentation that was prepared by the state or whomever, I don't think it's age appropriate. Okay? I have a degree in education, but I did spend most of my career in business. I was president of a company that marketed from Maine to Maryland. So I think I recognize BS when I see it.
Amen.
Okay? I agree with the Reverend on everything he said. And having run a business for 40 plus years, I can say this to you, Principal McCarthy, if you worked for me, you'd be getting your package for release before you went out the door. Now, I love my grandchildren dearly, and I'm sure everybody in this room does, but they're very innocent people, okay? And I regard them as a blank back blackboard, and they're what you put on them. And I don't like what you're putting on that blackboard, okay?
Shame on you.
And I don't think most people in this room do. And from one Irishman to another, I think what you're doing is a bunch of BS, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Anyone else from this lower middle section? Okay, I'll move to my right then. Anyone in this section down here?
Hi, my name is Heather Hannon. I'm a Sutton resident and mother to 2 children that are currently in the Sutton School District. Thank you to the committee for letting us talk and listen to some of our concerns. So here are some of my concerns, not related to the conference. I'm deeply concerned about recent decisions regarding our school's resources and leadership. The Department of Ed did come up with new health standards, but is not mandating that every district implement those new health and sex ed standards. But we in Sutton are considering hiring new staff for this particular purpose. I'm hoping that maybe we can take a look at that and consider maybe using our current staff and decide which standards we are going to be asking our staff to implement to our students. And maybe our current staff could handle those updates or standards. As a parent, I am more concerned about reducing class sizes for the elementary students than adding a new health teacher. Our 4th and 5th graders are facing oversized classes, which hinders their learning and exacerbates behavioral issues. And the research shows that smaller classes lead to better academic performance and classroom management. While discussions often revolve around low high school enrollment, little attention is paid to reducing the staff in the high school. This oversight could leave students ill-prepared for higher levels of education without a solid foundation in the core standards and social norms they receive at the elementary level. Which really just means I think we need more teachers in the elementary level. Since we don't have that many kids in the high school level, maybe we could reduce the staff. Additionally, there are lingering questions about the qualifications of some of our top administrators. For example, what licensure requirements were met before promoting Dander into assistant superintendent? As the assistant superintendent, is he going to be assuming any of Dr. Mormandy's responsibilities during her leave? Moreover, if Caitlin Paget assumes the role of interim superintendent, which we found out she did, who will fill the crucial position of interim principal for the elementary school? I find it to be unreasonable to expect the interim superintendent to manage both roles effectively, potentially leaving, yet again, our youngest students at a disadvantage. I didn't go to conference just once. So finally, the recent handling of the conference, the Connections Conference, has raised concerns about our community's values. I think we owe our children a safe and inclusive environment, free from hate and misinformation. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name is Jen Heck. I may be talking online. I came here for the D&D conversation, but I've been listening and I wrote these notes down. I have terrible handwriting. I'm going to do my best to read what I wrote. Sutton was the first town I ever lived in as a baby. I live here now. My two little kids were awesome. My daughter goes to Catholic school, and my son, we want to send them here, and I'm afraid, and maybe not for the reasons I think, but the first thing I want to say is I see you guys, the kids, the Connections kids, wherever you are watching, a lot of adults here making this about themselves, and it's about you guys, and I think we saw some quotes, and we've heard people talking about what Connections has meant to them. There's a lot of people here, I think there's evidence that there's a lot of people here that don't want you to be who you are, which is probably why Connections exists, and also probably why the suicide rate among LGBT kids is 41%, or people that have thought about it. So I just think we should give the kids some credit. Ideas are not scary. A balanced and confident kid who knows how to be a critical thinker has the ability to reject ideas that they know they don't agree with. And I'm not worried that my kid seeing a drag queen is going to make me gay, just like I'm not worried about my kids seeing someone with a gun is going to make me kill her, or seeing someone with a donut is going to make them fat. I hear a lot of buzzwords, but it feels like people weren't really listening to what the conference was really about. It's not about like crazy gay sex or any of that stuff. It's about inclusivity. And some of you may be surprised to know I'm actually a big fan of Jesus. I think he was a pretty radical guy. And he did not call him bomb threats or make fun of people on social media. His message was love, and I would ask you, is that your message? Because it's not what I'm hearing here. Hearing kind of the opposite, and that's why I'm afraid to send my kids here when I hear about bomb threats. Like, what's that about? You know, we have kids who are considering suicide right now, hearing you talk, thinking about it harder. That's why we need the conference. You know, I see also the people who don't agree. I'm a two-mom family. When I told my dad I was pregnant, he hung up the phone on me because he was so scared of that idea, and I understand the fear. But we can all have fear and talk about it. We don't have to like completely shut down the conversation. My dad is completely in love with my daughter now. He had to face his fears because it was there, the baby was there. We have a son now. Also, they're awesome people. Are you guys not going to talk to them because they have two moms? Because you'd be missing out. They're like so sweet, so special, and I want this community to feel safe.
She's nuts.
I'm Lindsay Wilk. I'm a Sutton resident. I'm here to show support for Connections and the Connections Conference. I've attended this conference 3 times. It's always been a very energized day and wonderful for students. I feel this program is so important because we need to fix some issues we have here in Sutton. I pulled my oldest son from Sutton because I had enough of kids Heiling Hitler to him and telling him to go to the gas chamber because he's Jewish. We have certain kids in Sutton using the N-word regularly, and they don't seem to have an issue or see an issue with it. Sometimes they find the black kid in the building, ask if they have permission to have an N-word pass, and then start using the N-word because one kid gave them permission. I can guarantee if I used some of that language in my job, I'd be fired. And so these programs help to teach our kids that they're not acceptable things to be saying at school or any place else. Connections is not perfect, but it's something. We need to show our kids they're heard and supported. Connections Conference is a major step in that direction. Students from the school where I work love this conference. They feel heard and seen here. For some, it's the best day of their school year. I want to end by saying that if you want religion in school, please sign your kid up for a religious school, because I don't believe that religion belongs in public school. And how can you determine that your religion is more important than somebody else's?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Matt Rearwin. I live here in beautiful Sutton.
1 second, Matt.
I want to talk a little about some numbers.
Matt, 1 second, please. Anyone else in this lower section need to speak first? So we can move on.
Sorry.
Okay, no, you're all right. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, close to the mic, please.
All right. They said I live here in beautiful Sutton. All right. I'm focused on the numbers. I looked over the budget. We've got $1,200 going for the club advisor, $2,000 went to the ADL. And even though it's said not to be a political organization, the CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, had a prior job in the Obama administration. It might be political, just a little bit.
Yes.
$2,850 went to the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. Last month, that organization had an event focused on anti-racist education in the age of resistance. So basically, parents here in town are hoping to pay for training of the staff how to counter their concerns. So I went to the DESE website and recommend look at that. So on the DESE website, I found a lot of comparable towns to Sutton. Millis is a very comparable town in terms of the numbers of the population, the number of students, the number that are low income, the average income, the number of graduates, and the school budget. The differences come about when we see that 24% of the students going from grade 8 to grade 9 leave the Sutton schools, whereas it's only 17% in Millis. But that's a number of kids that represents about 10 children. In terms of the school choice budget, that comes out to be about $150,000 is in a difference in the budget. Out of Sutton overall, we've got over $350,000 being spent for school choice matters. In Millis, because of the quality of the education, they've got almost $270,000 coming in because of students coming to their schools. According to the U.S. News and World Report magazine, in terms of the state rankings, Millis is at number 59, Sutton's at 103. In terms of grade 10 MCAS scores, Millis is beating Sutton in all the categories in the latest testing. Sutton numbers are down, Millis numbers are up. Sutton used to beat Millis in every category. Overall, in DESE data, Sutton is grouped with 12 towns. We got Sutton, Millis, Attleboro, Ayr, Cohasset, Douglas, Georgetown, Littleton, Lunenburg, Manchester, Essex, and Tingsboro. Numbers show in general that MCAS scores are falling, although Millis is doing good. Numbers show that Georgetown fell the most. In Georgetown, because of what's going on there, but roughly 25% of the kids have been pulled out of the high school, from what I can tell, based upon MCAS participation levels. The Georgetown numbers led me to look up at the story more fully. There's been some heated schools, community elections, and the new school committee changed the school superintendent last summer. There's only the next school that has the worst responses on the grade 10 MCAS scores is Sutton. Things got to change.
Good evening, Sutton. My name is David Bradley. I am from here, went to this school. Mr. McCarthy, I shouted out accountability to you earlier. I wouldn't be accountable, I'd be a hypocrite. I told you guys they paid David Higginbottom $2,270, and I got that from the source. I didn't make that number up. I don't trust it anymore, so I'm not sure about it. I want to be accountable, let you guys know. Second thing, I see you hate speech, and I'm aggressive. I understand. I have a loud mouth, 26. I'm passionate about this issue. We've all discussed the Connections Conference tonight. I'm going to talk about the elementary school for a minute. 31% of the kids are proficient in math. Only 56% of the kids are at an adequate level of reading comprehension. What's up with that?
Shameless.
That's crazy. So the principal gets promoted to be the assistant superintendent afterwards, because our actual superintendent can't lead, isn't a real leader when there's conflict, won't stand up in front of people and come talk. Mr. McCarthy, as much as I disagree, and I've called for your job on social media, I have. You stood up in front of us and talked for half an hour with a PowerPoint presentation, so at least I can give you that. Really. And again, the hate speech. I don't hate anybody. I don't hate you if you're gay. I don't hate you if you're lesbian, bisexual, transsexual, queer. I don't know what I stands for. I don't hate you if you're asexual. I don't hate you if you're non-binary. I don't know what the I stands for. Educate me.
Intersex.
Thank you. I don't hate you if you're intersex either. I do hate an ideology being spread and forced on the children. And yes, they were allowed. They had permission slips. They were allowed to leave if they were uncomfortable. But I went through the same school. I had the same teachers. I know the people that started the Connections Conference. I dated one of the girls that did. Okay? I was around. It's always in the bush, guys. I know her. She's up here standing 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's a gay teacher. You look like a fool, Mr. Hernandez. You look like a fool. You know, I can do whatever I want. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Somebody's done speaking. You almost ran out of time yourself. And listen, I'm not trying to spread hate speech. I'm trying to make people take accountability for their actions. We already said there was another member out there. She said 41% of people in the gay community, as well as the trans community, at least from all right, hold on, let me talk. Got 30 seconds. Go to UCLA. They did a study with Harvard and Columbia University. This isn't Fox News. Okay, Harvard, Columbia, UCLA. 42% of trans kids attempt suicide. 56% of trans kids inflict self-harm. 81% admit to suicidal ideation. For suicide attempts, it's 3 times worse for non-binary, it's 4 times worse for self-harm for non-binary, and 6 times worse for ideations. This is the ideology you guys are spreading to the children. You should be fired.
Anyone else from this upper section on my right? Okay, we'll move to this middle section then.
Be professional.
Please be respectful of people who are speaking. Thank you.
My name is Colleen Motozari. I've been teaching at Sutton High School for 17 years. I love Sutton, and I will retire from this place. I will not be bullied out of town by some of the hate speech that I've heard tonight. I will not address the fact that there are people here denying the existence of gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. We exist. We are here. That is that. That is that. I want to share a story. I think we know, I hope we can agree that it's important. I don't know if we can, but I hope we can agree that it's important that queer people live their truth. Because when you do not, you live a life of depression that's very challenging. 15 years ago, a student came to me and said, Ms. Malzari, I can't tell anyone that I'm gay. And it's really hard. And I really want to, but if I did, they wouldn't, vote me class president. And I really want to continue to serve as a leader for my class. And I said, I'm really proud of you for sharing that with me. I hope you can live your truth one day. I understand that it's hard, but I think there's a lot of support here, maybe that you don't know about. That was 15 years ago. That was tough. Countless kids have come up to me over the years. Last year, if you were at graduation, you heard our class president of the class of 2023 at Mechanics Hall say in front of parents, students, family members, and the whole staff, he said, "I am so proud to live in Sutton and to have the support of my peers and to have been elected your class president and class leader as an openly gay man." He was so proud that in a small town where it's often hard to be different in a small town, he was so proud that he was able to live his truth, and his class supported him, and he gave an incredibly moving speech at graduation. And it was one snippet. That was one snippet of his speech, and his speech was incredibly moving. I think that we can agree that when children are happy, they do better in school, and they reach their full potential.
Absolutely.
I believe this is true, and I hope we all believe this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Abby Davidenko. I will have been a resident of Sutton for 10 years come December. Love it here. I also have 3 kids in the school system, so y'all gotta get used to me. My parents are both ordained ministers to a conservative Christian denomination. And they did their best to raise me with the values passed down to them from that denomination. In many cases, this meant shielding me from things they deemed inappropriate or sinful, including Halloween, certain Disney movies, and underwear commercials on TV. Most notably, my parents shielded me from information about sex and sexuality. I learned the vaguest of basics from a focus on the family book, one that only mentioned homosexuality enough to say that it was a perversion. When it came to sex ed in schools, my parents pulled me out of nearly every class, and if one slipped through the cracks, they led the charge with school committee meetings just like this one. Lots of fun. By the time I reached high school, I had no positive exposure to gay or transgender people. I believed what I had been taught by my parents, by my pastors, by Focus on the Family, by Christian books, by other media, that being gay or transgender was a choice, that it was a choice people only made if they were deeply unwell, over-sexualized, and in a dark place, far from God. And I desperately feared disappointing God and falling from grace. If sheltering your child could prevent your child from identifying as LGBTQIA, as queer, I would have been a living testament to that. But the truth is I'm bisexual. I lost my place. I realized this in high school. It made me sick to my stomach for so long because of what I had been taught and what I hadn't been taught. That unease calcified into a tumor of self-hatred that metastasized into depression and eventually a longing to end my own life. And we've heard statistics tonight showing that I was not alone in that this is ridiculously prevalent for LGBTQIA youth to want to end their lives. But there's good news, because acceptance and support are the biggest shown preventers of suicidality in LGBTQIA youth, with GSA and similar programs contributing heavily to that reduction. To put it plainly, programs like ConCon save lives. I am very lucky. My story didn't end with that tumor. I grew up, I'm healing, and when I came out as bisexual to my still conservative Christian parents 2 years ago, they embraced me and told me they loved and supported me no matter what. I worry about the kids who don't have that acceptance. I worry that we as a town are gonna say, hey, we're uncomfortable with this, so I'm sorry, but you're just gonna have to die. I'm not willing to accept that. And honestly, if all it takes for one kid to reconsider suicide is a drag queen dancing on the table, I'm fine with that.
That didn't make sense.
Hi, my name is Heather
No,
McIntyre. I'm
doesn't.
a resident. I just want to start by saying I'm very glad to see the student party and the Connections Conference get unlimited time here tonight. That's fun. But on his presentation, I noticed one of the workshops he left off was called Waking Up White. Conveniently left that one off. We moved to Sutton 10 years ago. At that time, our oldest son was in first grade. We immediately had horrible experiences at the Simonian Center. We couldn't figure out why he wasn't coming home with spelling words for his weekly spelling quiz, because coming from Northbridge, that's what they did. And not only did they do spelling quizzes every week, they actually tailored it so that it was challenging to every single student. So in kindergarten, my son's word one time was quadrilateral, and he got hundreds every week. Then we came to Sutton and he got nothing. So when I asked the teachers about it, they said, we don't do spelling words until third grade. And I said, what? So I voiced my concern to the principal, who was no longer the principal, and at that time he told me, maybe this school's not the right school for your son, and hung up. So I met with Mr. Friend, who told me that I was wrong. They must do spelling words in first grade. And I said, well, your teacher said they don't, and my son doesn't come home with them. We've experienced Douglas, Northbridge, and Sutton, and I can tell you Sutton's been the worst. We've never had a good experience here. Just last week, there was an incident at the high school with my son, and an eyewitness, one of the nurses, completely made up what her eyewitness account was, and luckily there was camera footage to prove that. Had there been no camera footage, she would have been barred from his prom, junior year. During that incident, his wallet was stolen because they wouldn't let him go get it. I guess we have thieves in Sutton too. I know that there's a national agenda that's being pushed to the state level and trickling down. But the issue is that we do have immediate control over our staff, who our principal is, who our superintendent is. And when that's their mission, that's the problem. When every staff member lists their pronouns at the end of every email, that's indoctrination. When I email a teacher about my son and call him him, his, and they reply responding, calling them only they and them, that's indoctrination. Since I've been vocal about my opinion, I've been kicked off the 8th grade field trip as a chaperone. Shout out to Miss Corin.
Hi, my name is Louis Oliver Freer. I'm a Sutton resident and a graduate of Sutton High School class of 2015. I heard somebody in the audience before everybody sat down say, this isn't very Sutton. No, it's not. And it's not about the auditorium. It's about the way you're yelling at people as they're speaking, and I'm going to ask you not to do that, okay? Because that's not a way to hold a discussion in this community, in this state, in this country. And this is why it is hard for me to exist as a transgender graduate of Sutton High School. And I'm grateful I am, because when I was at Sutton, I had amazing friends. I had amazing connection before the connection conference. Because if you can remember the date, I just said I graduated in 2015. I'm very grateful to still be here in town, despite a lot of nonsense that happens. But to the kids watching at home, to my very, very good friends all over, okay? This is why it's hard to exist. This is why it's hard to speak your truth. This is the exact reason why somebody can feel uncomfortable in their skin, because this is Zion. No one seeks her, okay? It's bigger. It's a bigger issue. I believe in a lot of things, and I believe I have the right to change my mind. And I haven't changed my mind about being transgender. Perhaps it's because of my community. Perhaps it's because of the eyes. Perhaps it's because my truth isn't okay because it doesn't fit your truth. And that is what makes me feel like a disabled citizen from a beautiful community where I can walk on 2 feet. This is the reason I don't feel able. But I'm more than capable. But to walk through this anxiety every day, do you see it's a problem now? 10 years later, hello! Excuse my little theatricals. I have to, deal with the theatricals around me. So sometimes they come out of me. But this was unacceptable behavior on multiple aspects, and I don't need to point a finger at anybody. But look at my committee and say, hi, I exist. I broke the statistic of transgender students because of, a point, Mr. McCarthy, Colleen Malazari, Ms. Hernandez, because I wasn't afraid. Thank you. And thank you to Mr. Smith, who passed the baton in a productive way. Can we do that again?
Hello, my name is Denise Pond. I'm a Sutton resident. I'm a member of the class of 2016. I facilitated a workshop at the 2019 Connections Conference. So, the Connections Conference benefits every student who chooses to attend because it gives students an opportunity to grow, learn, and build community with their peers. Many schools across the country do not teach about the history of drag, which was the topic of both sessions of that workshop. Students across the country have trouble knowing who to turn to when it comes to discussing identity. In a recent nationwide survey, only 23% of students reported having a supportive school administration. Research shows that schools of organizations like the Connections Conference, like Gay Straight Alliances, increase safety of queer youth at school by 50%. The message that the Connections Conference sends is that you're not alone, you're seen, you're heard, and you're respected. The Connections Conference is not required to attend. Every student gets to choose whether or not to go. In fact, students from across New England actively choose to go and participate in these workshops. Kids and teens have the right to choose what to learn about and what extracurricular activities to participate in. These should not be decided by anyone else. The Connections Conference uses school resources similar to extracurricular activities like a sports event or the school play. But most importantly, by hosting this conference and specifically this workshop, we're teaching young adults about queer history and drag history, topics historically erased from school curriculums. A lack of education breeds hatred, which manifests often as bullying, social exclusion, and leads queer students not to participate in social activities, not to feel safe at school, and not to feel comfortable being authentic. Education, however, facilitates open-mindedness, understanding, and respect. What Sutton High and many schools across Mass and across New England are doing by participating in this conference is attempting to remedy a fraction of untold queer history. By hosting this conference, Sutton starts an important legacy of creating connections with peers across New England. Thank you.
I came here today to express my support for the Connections Conference as a valuable platform to promote inclusion, understanding, and respect within our community. I understand the community's concerns regarding the appropriateness of drag queen performance at this year's event. One of the aims of drag is to increase the visibility of LGBTQ+ issues by fostering discussions around gender and orientation to challenge stigmas and misconceptions. These goals are so incredibly important, but they can be achieved by presentations that omit performance many consider inappropriate for a school setting. Our principal has acknowledged that some aspects of the presentation were unexpected and has assured us that steps are being taken to establish clearer guidelines for future conference presentations. The purpose of the conference is to unite us, not to create division. I don't think we should toss it aside, along with the opportunity it offers to foster acceptance within our community, while also providing our students with the unique experience of hosting such a large event. We can learn from this experience and take appropriate measures to modify procedures going forward, just as we would when any initiative is met with concerns. I support our administration and trust their commitment to do what's best for our students, and I hope we can put this division behind us and use this experience to move forward in unity, listening to one another to create a community where all members feel comfortable and accepted in being themselves. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is John Sullivan, I'm a Sutton resident, I've had 3 children in schools. Unlike most you've heard from today, I'm not exactly happy with the direction our schools have been going on, and sort of beyond just the conference alone. I want to be clear that I am in the belief that all people, all beliefs, all students matter. That's what people sitting behind you, everybody here matters. But, however, it appears that our school administration only seems to be wanting to push one side, one agenda, while pushing off those who don't align with their beliefs. This is the opposite of the inclusion they claim to be promoting. While claiming to be promoting inclusion, all they have succeeded in is division. Schools should be teaching our children how to think, not what to think. The recent events that occurred have opened the eyes of many as to the true culture within our schools. Personal bias of any administrator or educator does not belong in our school program. The administration continues to focus on the conference alone and hide behind the fact that this was a voluntary event. These issues of extreme one-sided culture go past this just a conference, and over the past several weeks there have been many to come forward. We give examples of how the culture is in fact within the schools on a normal basis. Parents have raised concerns and felt ignored, and I have yet to receive any communication from the administration that resembles accepting of views that differ from our own. You have staff I've seen online show nothing but contempt for parents that are speaking up. This is not only very inappropriate, but also speaks volumes about the environment in the schools. You have staff that feel emboldened to act this way and they agree with what's occurring, while I've heard from students and parents who disagree that they remain silent in fear of negative repercussions. Parents are pulling their kids from their schools and good educators have left. I understand there are several touchy social issues in the world today, and I am not saying these issues should be ignored. They should certainly be approached in an unbiased and factual way. These social issues can be taught in a way where we're not going to the extreme ends of the spectrum. I, like you all, grew up in a world where these extreme ends of the spectrum weren't pushed in the classroom, and that doesn't make that turned out okay. So I'm tired of hearing from certain administrations by not including these things in school, we would be setting our kids up for failure. I might not agree with you, you might not agree with me, and that is fine. I will say it again, all opinions and all beliefs matter. I have always thought my kids to be critical thinkers and to come up with their own opinions based on facts. I have never pushed my kids on my opinions or my beliefs. And if they end up differing from my own, that is fine. So I will not accept that they go to school and have the beliefs of others pushed upon them or be made to feel they are wrong if they disagree. These are my kids, not yours.
Hear, hear.
Let's continue allowing back to school and practice inclusion for all instead of driving division. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer David-Lauren, and I live in Sutton. I am here today to express my concerns about the culture that is developing in our school system. School should be a center of learning, not only the basics of math, science, the arts, language, writing, history, etc., but a place where children continue to develop their social skills, critical thinking skills, communication skills, all while providing a sense of structure and security in their lives. As parents, we know that children feel safest when they do not live in chaos. Our school system, unfortunately, has and continues to develop a culture of fear, distrust, divisiveness, and confusion. About 4 years ago, I listened in on one of my daughter's 9th grade classes that was over Zoom, where I heard the teacher actually apologize for being a white male. My first thought was, how does this make all the young white male students in the class feel? Should they feel inferior to others in the class and in their community? How does this build up their confidence to be leaders and role models in the world? And how does this make the students of other ethnicities feel about the color of their skin? Should they apologize and feel inferior as well? Or should they think of themselves as better than those who are white? This is racism at its core. We are teaching kids to fear who they are, their ethnicity, the color of their skin, and their gender. This fear leads to distrust between students and teachers, students and parents, and parents and teachers. Students are now questioning everything they've been taught by parents, and not in a way that allows them to be critical thinkers, but encourages them to just follow along with one-sided ideologies. Sorry, I'm very nervous. Some students have felt that they can't share with their parents what they see, hear, and learn at school, for fear of parents speaking out and then receiving retribution in school. Teachers are encouraged to not disclose honest information about their students to the parents, and when parents find out information wasn't disclosed, they mistrust the education system. This distrust leads to divisiveness that leads to roles of victim and victimizer. We are a family of color, and I have worked hard to teach my daughters that we are not victims in this world because we are a minority. Rather, it is imperative that they build moral character and values that will carry them with confidence into their future. And finally, this divisiveness leads to confusion, hurt, and anger. We lose focus on the task and responsibility at hand, completing the job we have all been given.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Frijon. Firstly, I just wanted to mention to the principal that equating a drag show, a man in women's underwear, with racism and anti-Semitism and all of these other extremely violent, dangerous things is emotional manipulation. It is not what we're talking. We were talking about the drag queen on the table. And I just want to bring it back to people because acting as though that gives you some kind of moral high ground to accept the drag queen is absolutely, it's ridiculous and it's wrong. Because that gives you no moral high ground. People expect better. Gay kids don't need drag. Sorry. Straight kids don't need drag. No kids need drag.
That's right.
We all also really know this is a political agenda. Not one person sitting here doesn't know this is a political agenda.
Right.
We have to be honest with ourselves that no one is teaching kids to think critically about this situation. No adult should be discussing a child's sexuality. No adult should be talking about their own sexuality at school with our kids.
Right.
This is a huge, inappropriate, dangerous precedent to set because what comes next?
Inappropriate behavior. Right.
Most importantly, I have to say to all of you parents, they're all in. Get your kids out of the public schools.
Yeah.
All in. I don't know why you think, oh, it's fine because of this, or it's fine. It's not fine. They get one childhood. You can't do it over. One chance. The teachers aren't social workers. They're not doctors. They're not therapists. They are teachers that you pay to teach your kids. It's just mind-blowing to me that this is a discussion about just a drag queen also, because if it got that far, there's a lot more that you're unaware of.
Right.
It's so hard to keep kids from being sexualized. It's a constant 24/7 job. We have no help. You know, when I was a kid, they said, you know, internet safety all the time. Nobody, kids have a phone in their bedroom. They're alone on the internet. You need to pay attention better. But I do want to ask the school committee, can Sutton handle financially the lawsuits that could come from this? In Ludlow, parents filed a lawsuit against the school committee, interim superintendent, former superintendent, principal, librarian, because kids were hijacked. They were given at 11 years old words to learn about their identity, to hide from their parents. Their parents didn't know they were being called by different names at school. And there are other towns. Springfield, Leominster, Middleborough, Rentham, Pembroke, it's all tied to money and politics.
Right.
DESE top-down is indoctrinating our kids with an ideology, and they're taking advantage of you.
My name is Jane Peterson. I have worked in this district as an instructional assistant for 18 years. I may say something unpopular, and I'm okay with that. As a conservative Christian, I did have an issue with the drag queen coming. But because of what's happened here in town, because I saw what ugliness was going to occur before it even happened. As someone who is conservative, Ted McCarthy and I have butted heads on different issues over the years. But let me tell you, I respect that man. And I do not have a problem with the whole Connections Conference. Because the whole Connections Conference is not about a 2-minute drag queen presentation. And I'm going to tell you that this is not just about our LGBTQ kids. Being here for 18 years and working with our special needs population and hearing kids getting bullied and saying, as we've tried to do things to stop the bullying over the years, thanks, Ms. Peterson, we're glad you're trying, but it's not going to work. When I had a student stand in front of me, a 12-year-old boy, in tears, a young man of color, who had a racial slur written on his textbook, who told me he had been in this district for many years, and he didn't know that that's how his classmates felt about him. In tears. That's why Connections is important. Not just for our LGBTQ plus kids, but for all of our kids. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy King, and I live in Sutton. And we heard from a lot of speakers tonight. And a lot of things that I heard were very disturbing. It's pretty sad that our taxpayer money is going to some things that we haven't even been aware of. And I want you to know that this is not about a conference. It's not about particular people. It's about what is really going on in our school that we have not been aware. My kids didn't go here for a specific reason, and I think it's evident now. But I'm really sad that I have to stand up here and tell you a few things. And I promised myself I wouldn't go to the Concom, but I will. I have to. Expenses. I'd like you to look into the teachers on Wednesday and Thursday, I'm told, were taken off, and we had to hire some substitutes. So I'm looking at that going, oh, that's another expense we weren't aware of. It's true. And then on the conference day, both Kim and Ted demanded the IT guy disable. Are you ready for this? The filters. So that meant that all 6, 5, however many kids were here, could get on their phones or any device, and they could access, guns, drugs, pornography, websites that, who knows, these speakers are giving them websites, and they're on there, we don't even know the adult content. Are the parents aware of that? This conference was just a gateway, people. This was a gateway. And you know what? I call it a blessing. Because we actually found out some things, and there's a lot more that's coming out. Over the past month, I have talked to for hours and hours and hours on the phone. My husband will attest to that. I have talked to parents, grandparents, teachers, nurses, administrators, and I have been given stories that would make your hair stand up on your back. And children, yes, children we're talking about. Mr. McCarthy has said, now that you are in high school, you don't have to listen to your parents. You can basically make up your own, you can really, let me get this straight, because I don't want to misquote this. You don't have to believe and think like your parents. You can have your own views and opinions on things. These are children. They're not adults. Okay, many would be standing here telling you their story, but they can't. Children have begged their parents not to speak and tell their stories. Grandparents have been threatened.
Mr. Hernandez, the way you're talking to people, I'm sorry to call you out, but it's very unprofessional. It's very, we're going to let the speaker speak, please. Mr. Hernandez, it's very unprofessional, and I don't want to make a bias on you, but when I see this happening, I'm saying, oh my gosh, if the teachers are doing this in front of everyone here, on TV, doing whatever we are on tonight, what in God's name is going on in our here? But to see you shake and make fun of people, let people speak. A lot of people are not going to like what I'm saying, but I would ask with respect to not get my hand and all that. I didn't do it to anybody else, and that's what I'm asking for. And I want to see respect out in school. I don't care if someone's gay, straight, bisexual, whatever you are. Everyone deserves respect, and I don't think it's happening in this damn school. Because I saw it tonight, and you know what? If I wasn't here, I would have said BS, you're telling me a story. I saw it, and you know what? I'm definitely afraid. My daughter now is going to be called out. And I'm really afraid that I have to deal with my wife when I get home.
Good evening. My name is Dani. I live in Spencer. I raised 2 kids in Millbury. I attended schools in Millbury, Shrewsbury, and Worcester. I have 5 grandchildren. Oxford, Millbury, Spencer, just so you know who I am and where I'm coming from. I worked for the last 20 years in pediatrics as administrative support, patient advocate, and a healthcare provider. So I think I know something about children. I believe that there are specific ages and stages for mental, emotional, and intellectual development. Not every kid is in the same place at the same time, because not every kid comes from the same home and the same values. I'm not going to disagree with the values that Connections proposes to provide to the group that voluntarily joins. And I'm going to say that is from my heart. I have a granddaughter who believes herself to be transgender. She's changed her name. She goes by he, him. I do not love her any less, nor does anyone in her family, our family. She belongs. I do, though, want to talk about the conference. And I don't know why, and I've been around for a while, the history of drag queen, or drag queening, whatever the topic was, how does it belong in any high school curriculum? And so when we talk about, from the mission statement, social responsibility, and we talk about, Mr. McCarthy, your goals, preventing incidents that impact the future, maybe I've got a little bit of the other side. We live in a country that the film industry, the movie industry, the theater industry, the documentary industry the music industry, even the news that we watch holds graphic warnings if there's a child in the room. Music, whether it's bought and sold online or you go to a store and do it old school like I did, there are parental warnings. There are parental warnings on films, movies, theater, documentary. So if all of those industries are paying attention to 18,
Can we go to this side now?
Yeah, okay.
Don't stop my clock, public service. If you're going to be up there, drop your sunglasses.
It's me, sir, thank you.
Now you can start my clock.
Hey everybody, Chris Ramsdorf. I've been a Sutton resident for 20, I guess going on 30 years now. Had 3 kids that went through this school. Some of this will be a repeat from when we met with the 2 committee members earlier in the year. But Ted McCarthy and I could not be more diametrically opposed in our political opinions. So just to set the stage with that. Ted McCarthy, I was the one that said to Ted this coming in here like, hey, I think we're at a unique inflection point where I think we can, close some of the gaps that exist and how to do that. So in a few minutes, I'd like to share some suggestions rather than just throwing out all the stuff that I'm not happy about. But I guess a few other things that I'd like to get an answer on is, Ted mentioned earlier that more people apply to connections than get in. How do you decide who gets in? Does the gay kid get in over the straight kid? Does the black kid get in over the white kid? And if that's the case, how is that about inclusivity and how do you truly get the connections from multiple perspectives, which I think is what you're all about. I'd also like to point out that, Ted got up here and took the punches to the face today. Paul and Nate got up here a few weeks ago and took the punches to the face. Big credit to both of you. As a 30-year veteran of the Army, I can tell you that there's nothing I hate worse than cowardice. And what the school superintendent did by cutting out and going on a medical leave of absence is gutless and cowardly. And Ted, I feel bad for you for getting hung out to dry like that, because that's inexcusable. And I hope you guys keep that in mind if she ever comes back with her. All right, I only have a minute left, so I'm going to go to my recommendations. And I think these are recommendations that everybody here can get behind, whether you're gay, straight, black, white, pro, drag queen, anti-drag queen, whatever. I'd like to see the school committee create a policy that compels Sutton schools to enact the fairness principle, which is close to the fairness doctrine. Simply put, this would ensure the school educators and administration require potentially controversial topics only be discussed in the appropriate forums and classes, civics, government, things like that, versus Spanish, and that the teachers of these classes present all sides of an argument with equal effort, passion, and level of understanding. The administration can feel free to bring in outside people to present these views, and they should. My second ask would be that the school administration take proactive steps to ensure that a teacher's personal politics or social agendas are not readily apparent to the students. Students not be able to tell the teacher's political or social meaning. This, by the way, is in keeping with the mass teachers' code of ethics. It would include removal of political subjects. I'm going to give you guys a copy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is John. I'm a Sutton resident. If you don't know me already, it's nice to finally meet you. I'm one of your neighbors. I am here. I'm a person of color. I had attended Sutton schools from the time that I was in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. And I also had the opportunity to attend the first ConCon in 2019. I have nothing but good things to say about the Connections program and the Connections Convention that I had the opportunity to attend. I remember what it was like to be a freshman, coming into my free period and meeting the older students that were part of the Connections program, and feeling a sense of inclusion that is hard to come by, to be quite honest, in a town like Sutton. By the time of the first Connections conference, when other schools were involved and invited to the school, I was already a senior. And even though I didn't become one of the students that was helping out with Connections, I had the opportunity to attend, and I really enjoyed everything that I saw there. I got to meet students from other schools. I got to attend a workshop that was led by a local college professor. That's something that means a lot to a high school student. And I remember feeling so proud of my school. Feeling so proud of the teachers, the administrators, and my fellow classmates that put so much work and effort into putting that program on. So this is all just to say that I'm a student who benefited from this program. I'm not groomed, I'm not indoctrinated. I have friends who have political views that are wildly different than mine. And we talk openly about them. We argue, and we have a mutual respect. These are kids that are in your town, that grew up in this town. It could be your kid that I'm disagreeing with and still being friends with. Because it's about mutual respect and recognizing the humanity in each other. And I just have to say, it was incredibly disheartening to hear that the teachers, the staff, the administrators that supported me in my growth, in my education, in my development as a human being, were receiving death threats over what seemed to be misinformation about this event. And I just want you guys to think about the fact that I'm still going to be your neighbor after this. You know, don't just know me. You can talk to me. I'm still going to live here. I'm still going to be part of your community. People like me exist, and kids will continue to exist that were just like me. And all they ask is to be secure, safe, and loved.
Hello, I'm Bert McIntyre. I'm going to finish a little bit with my wife didn't have to finish here. I think there's a question about what's the difference, what's the opposite, right? You get hung up on what's the opposite, right? It's not about opposite, right? So I think the Connections has become a pep rally for the Democrat Party. I know we pretend it's not politics, but let's be serious about it. The state of Massachusetts is predominantly Democrat. It's run by Democrats, the old school committee at the state level is run by it. So we push that agenda down here. Now, the question you guys asked us to ask questions, you're going to go convene, you're going to come back and answer these questions, right? So I have a question. What can you do in a predominantly conservative town, which is represented by conservative members of the State House and the Senate? What can you do to run interference from the state that is pushing this agenda into this school? I think that's a question that needs to be answered.
Hi, I'm Sherry Justin. I am a Sutton resident. I'm here tonight to talk first about my concern of professional development days in regards to Good Friday. This past year, we had a professional development day the Friday before Good Friday and the Friday after Good Friday. So my concern is that I'm not asking for the school to celebrate on grounds this Christian event. I'm not asking to Good Friday to be celebrated on grounds. I'm not asking for a flag, a Christian flag, with a crucifix to be flown from the pole or to be put in a Spanish room. I'm not asking for like John 3:16 or like Viva Cristo Rey to be written on the school windows or the hallway. Because all I'm asking is we've had this professional development day or day off for a long time. And this year it creeped in that we didn't have it. So that was a problem. So I'm asking you to please look into that and amend the calendar that's already been set for next year, where that is gonna be a problem for a lot of people, where you already have a professional development there. I know you've heard this already said, where people said we weren't gonna talk about Concom, and I wasn't gonna specifically, but I understand that you want love and respect, and for everyone to feel belonged, I do. But you know what, it's not just for one day out of the school year for a certain group of kids. It's for the whole school. We all want the same thing. We want everyone to feel loved. And we want everyone to feel welcome. And I don't want anyone to commit suicide, and I don't want anyone to feel they're hated. But it's not for one day of the year. This is stuff that we all need to be hearing for all of our kids. I tell my kids that, I'm a school bus driver. I tell my kids that on the bus. I tell my kids that that I reared myself, my 4 children, my Spanish exchange student. This is not one day. We all want love and respect. But you can't force an ideology on one day that's exclusive, you know what I mean? It's just, that's it. Thank you.
I'm Ruth Driscoll, Sutton, and I want to thank you for making sure that all of us could get into a larger room, enough for everybody to be here. Thank you. I want to talk about the quarry policy. I want to bring your attention to what I consider inconsistencies and thereby a lack of effectiveness. I'm concerned about how our school decides who gets quarry check and who does not. It is apparent there are inconsistencies that could put students and our town in danger. Quarry is a screening that stands for Criminal Offender Record Information. The Sutton School website states all people who are current or prospective employees, subcontractors, volunteers, interns, or professional license applicants are required to be screened for criminal history. There is also a similar screening that's done with SORI, which is related to sex offenders. And I'm not saying we have had anyone on our school premises who have questionable criminal history, or anyone who's been a sex offender who entered our school without getting credit checked. I don't know. I'm not saying that as well. But I am saying that everyone should be checked with these screens. And I think we can all agree that safety for all of our students is the utmost importance, and all the people who work or who are on campus. The school committee is responsible for creating protocols for this, and the school is responsible for following these protocols. My 2 youngest children attended Sutton schools for about 10 years, and during that time I volunteered in many ways. I was required to be quarry checked, and like other parents who volunteered, even after I'd been coming for so many events and for so many years and everyone knew who I was, the school still required my quarry to be on file. It makes sense. Generally, all employees, all volunteers in the school, field trips, and the bus drivers are all quarry checked. But on March 15th, at the Con, this was not the case. About 50 of our own Sutton students were there, about approximately 600 other students from 56 other schools across the state were on our campus. And there were about 60 adults not in our school system who were also on campus that day to volunteer to present workshops. But none of those presenters were quarry checked by our school. If safety of our students is important, should we make sure that all adults working with them are quarry checked? Not only that, about the responsibility that we have for those 550 other students from different towns. If something had happened to one of those students on any day, who would be responsible? And does our town have the ability to protect our town from liability?
Okay, so we could be here for hours upon hours asking questions and talking to the school committee about what we are happy about and what we are unhappy about, and the school committee can come back with answers or non-answers or whatever the case may be, but the bottom line is that this agenda is gonna be pushed through no matter how many questions you ask, no matter how much you try to compromise with them. And please let me remind you that when you compromise with evil, you're still working with the devil. This is not about making people feel comfortable at school. This is about a bigger agenda to pull children away from their parents. They don't think that you are capable of parenting your own child, so they're trying to do it for you. And by doing that, they're indoctrinating your children to think that they know better than you do. So please, pull your children out of schools. Homeschooling is not as hard or scary as it seems, and I guarantee you, there's a couple of homeschoolers in this room right now that will help you get started. Get your kids out of these schools. I mean, it's up to the parents. Your children are your divine responsibility given to you by God. And once they're damaged, there's no turning back. They're in these indoctrination centers. It's going to keep getting worse. It's part of the agenda to pull them away from you. And it's up to you to do something about it. These meetings are designed so that people show up and feel good about themselves for speaking up and, saying what they're for or against. And then everybody just forgets about it a couple days later. Or the next time there's a meeting, the same people don't show up, or less people show up, and people start to forget about it, or people say there's nothing that we can do because this is just the way that it is. That's your child. You can't have that kind of an attitude about your child. You have to do something. Get them out of the school or demand no connections in schools. This shouldn't, it's ridiculous that this is even debatable, and it's insane that people are telling people to be respectful in this conversation because there's nothing fucking respectful about sexualizing children. And that's what this is. So don't be respectful. Tell them that you don't want connections in the fucking schools and pull your kids out.
Like a few other people here, I was not going to say anything about Concom. However, some of the things that were left off the sheet, cowardice was mentioned, transparency, another. Notice on your slide, on the mission statement, third line down, I believe, was academic excellence. That was not underlined. Shocker. Other things that have been omitted from your speeches, Mr. McCarthy, the ConCon website, and the classes that day are nothing to do with sexual orientation or acceptance. They're specifically using the words privilege and bias. And those are the things that I have a problem with. Why should anyone who has done the hard work as a child and raise their standards from whatever plan they're on to being every quarter on the academic list feel privileged? That word was never brought home until the ConCon conference. Now she's privileged because she's on the high honors list. Fascinating. Academic excellence was not underlined because specifically in her class, not Grafton and not Sutton in general, but specifically in her class, the testing used to be dibbles. When her class was doing dibbles, we were 14, the scoring was different, but it equates to 14 percentage points above the state average. Excellent. Then we get to 13, 12. In the last MCAS, which coincidentally was going on at the same time as the Comic-Con was, along with a couple other coincidences, we get to 4 points below the state average in English and learning. And even with the state average in mathematics. And the science and technology were 1.1 percentage point below in science and technology. That's why academic excellence was not underlined. Now, how did a class that was so far above have their level compared to the other kids in their own classes in the same state schools drop?
Hello everyone, some of you may remember me, I was at the last informal meeting. I'm black, I'm gay, and I was a U.S. Marine Corps vet. I'd like everyone to know that this isn't a gender, a woke agenda, to sabotage your children, to basically put them in control of the government. Because the best way to take over a country is to stop with your children. Simple as that. And as a gay man of the LGBT community, 45 years old, they don't represent us. There's millions of us that do not want this. There's no reason why you are teaching sexual things to children under 18 years old. It is pathetic. If you stand up for it, you are not going to be pedophile sympathizer. You don't think that is appropriate. As a person, I remember in the 80s, it wasn't cool to be gay as it is now. You are more accepted now than ever. So stop proclaiming the hate speech. Stop with the isms, it's not true. I hear more of the N-word coming from people who look like me, who listen to rap music. So stop with that. It's just an excuse to shut you parents up or people who have common sense and who sees what it is. It's a disguise, wrapped in a nice little ball, and when you open it up, it's going to explode in your face. So please stop using the LGBTQ community as a disguise, as a Trojan horse. It's unacceptable. I worked in a sex shop, and when dumb parents actually had the nerve to bring their children in, take them out or I'm calling 911. It's that simple. This is an agenda that's coming from a democratic state, and they're pushing it on the kids. And it's unacceptable. You parents should be fired up. And I had a friend that brought it up. They only push this to the white neighborhoods because you'll be scared with the word racism. They will pay you black people. As soon as they come out, there's a black queen that gets in their underwear, they would have marched their behinds down there with pitchforks, calling for your resignation. Probably started a riot. So stop with the nonsense. We know what it is. And I know the principal selectively took out messages from the students that praised this program. Yes, I am glad that there's something for kids who need the help. But again, schools are not hospitals, therapy. They're supposed to be kids. Most of the suicide has nothing to do with someone called them a name. It's the fact that they're dealing with mental problems and it's being exaggerated in these programs. So stop. And remember, they talk about inclusion, but the entire time that I've been here, people from the connection have been giving people dirty looks, mouthing off, pulling them speaking off mic. It's only inclusion when you only agree with them. When you don't, you're a homophobe, you're a transphobe. These words are basically to scare you to shut yourselves up. Be like myself. People have called me an a-hole. You know what? I am, because you're pissing me off right now.
Hello, my name is Garden Murray. I went to school here. My children went to school here. My grandchildren went to school here. Thank
Matthew 18:6. This is for all of you and Ted. If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, woe to all of you. Woe to all of you. Now, I'm so happy to get this opportunity to let you all know that we all love you. All of you. Okay? All of you, we love you. And I pray to you every single night. And I am not the only one. There are so many other people that pray for you. You are on my list to change and come back. Why? Because I want you to taste the true love, peace, and joy of Jesus Christ. The one who was crucified and died for you and me. Brothers and sisters, real joy, peace, happiness don't come from sexual orientation.
Amen.
They don't come from sexual relationships. They come in living in and living with Jesus Christ, the true God. And I want you all, when you go home, to pray tonight to Jesus and ask Him to come to you tonight. Yes, to transform you. You just need to be transformed. Yes, it's possible. I've seen so many stories, and I want you to come back next year and tell us about your story, how you changed. I believe God is with you. He loves you. He died for you. He loves you more than He loves me. He does. Trust me. All of your fear, identity, confusion, anxiety, and depression will end today. In Jesus' name, I pray. Jesus Christ loves you, and He wants to set you free. He is the only one that will set you free. Thank you.
Anyone who hasn't spoken that would like to speak?
Can I say something without a mic? No. Did you guys take 3 minutes to over committee a question? I just was saying, you yelled all your time out. Isn't that fair? You yelled people time is up, right? Can I also speak again?
Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to stick to the limit.
I just wanted to thank my community, educators, that around the world, and everything online.
Is there someone else who wants to speak?
I just have to say, you know, guys, one thing. I'm just asking if you could please, anything online, guys, all of us, I'm also filming.
We need to stick to the time that we're charging.
My name is Jen Heck, I'm very upfront about what my name is, I am here with my 2 kids. If you are going to post something online, would you please not put any of us in danger, and I will do the same with I move to close the public discussion.
It looks like we have 2 people who want to speak who have not spoken yet.
Thank you.
This committee will be forced to close this hearing and this discussion if we cannot keep order. Thank you.
Alright, so my name is Amanda Moulton, and to say I'm a concerned mother is an understatement, but I also want to start by saying that I personally feel if the Don't Be a Drag, Be a Queen part of the conference didn't happen, that none of us would be here, in my opinion. Conference has been going on since 2019, and this is the first that I've heard of it, so I think that speaks volumes as to the main issue as to why most of us are here. I have children in both middle school and elementary school, and to think that my 12-year-old is old enough to be a part of an event that allows a grown man in a skirt to dance on a table is disturbing in all levels. Most of the time, in order to even see that, you have to be 18 years or older for a reason. I have gay family members and friends who I love very much. My children have grown up around it. It's not something that we hate. We don't condemn it. Everybody lives their own lifestyle. But what my issue is that we are exposing our children to things that make grown adults uncomfortable, and it's not okay. And we're allowing it to happen in the school setting. So now our kids, even though we try to keep them away from seeing all of it, they're seeing the pictures of a drag queen on their library table dancing in a miniskirt. And on the same level, if my child were to come to school in an outfit like that, she would be sent home, or it would be sexualized, and it would be this, that, and the other thing. But we're allowing it for this conference for a reason, which I'm not sure. So I send my kids to school to learn math, English, social studies, and science, and anything outside of these basic studies are called principles, and that's something that my husband and I are to teach at home, and it's not in the hands of anyone here. So.
So I apologize if I sound slightly out of breath. I actually kind of fast walked to get here in time and catch the end, so appreciate the opportunity to speak. I haven't caught a lot of the meeting, I missed most of it, but wanted to make sure that I got here to speak my piece. I grew up in I'm Dave Healy, live in Sutton, sorry. I grew up in a small town, and one of the things, honestly, that attracted me to Sutton is because it had that same sort of feel. It was a tight community, a lot of people in town, but it doesn't really feel that way because everyone seems to know it, and I like that. It was comforting. It had that sense of community. I don't know much about the Connections Conference that went on, its history, what its mission is, so on and so forth. I think we can all be served pretty well by the golden rule is treat others as we would like to be treated. And I think that applies in this instance as well. This isn't about hate, this isn't about a phobia, this is about what's appropriate for a school. The speaker prior to me, I think put it very well, is that this is a place where students should show up and learn about math, learn about history, learn about the English language, so on and so forth. This is not an environment where we should be exposing our children to those sorts of things that happen at the conference. I mean, the thought of a grown man in a miniskirt, wearing tiny whities, doing a dance, I mean, I find that personally revolting. Maybe others may find that appealing, right? And that's for them, but that's not a school-type event as far as I'm concerned. I'm a taxpayer in town. I haven't done the math, but how much of my taxes went to pay for the light, the heating, the additional staff that pay for that event? I don't consent to that. That is not what the school should be about. That is not what education should be about. Parents raise their children in the way that they see fit. The school does not have a role in that at all, period, end of statement. I'm upset by this, as you can tell by me, kind of sprinting in. I missed, as I said, a lot of what happened before. I don't know the principal. I don't know the superintendent. No offense intended to either, but they should both be fired. Category A. I'm sorry, everyone makes mistakes, and I can appreciate that, but mistakes have consequences, and those consequences need to be executed.
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who would like to speak? Okay, with that in mind, we will end the public discussion part. I'm going to call for a 10-minute recess so we can review the questions, so we can work to get answers for everyone. Go to the bathroom, stand up and stretch, and then we'll reconvene.
Notice that the bathrooms have pictures all over the walls talking about suicide. Maybe that's why the kids are getting
I know that's one that we've wanted for quite some time. As the school, we'd be very happy to receive that. It would alleviate a lot of issues to have a track and field that would become an asset for the community, something where it could be used outside of just the school events, something where you can have people from the town go and use the track. If you look at, I think almost every town around us has at least a track, if not also a turf field or some sort of field to use with it. We also pay quite a bit of money when we need to use some of the other fields to have our games there if we can't accommodate here. And you can receive revenues from other towns when you rent out your field for various things, sometimes even playoffs. So the challenge that we have is that's not something that the school purchases. Much like the school building, the town buys that. So it's a capital expense that the town purchases, and as a school district, we would be very happy to have that. And as a town resident, I would absolutely love to have a track, indoor field, and stuff to go with it in our town. I think that would be a great asset. So again, that's something that I don't know that I have the time on the committee to lead that up. It's a big effort. I know some people have put in a lot of work on this already. But I would say if that's what you want as residents, and I know I do, keep letting the town know. I think that's something that I think we should work towards, hopefully sooner than later. So it's not something the school has the money for.
The track won't fit until that one house that's over by there isn't there.
So, yeah, I know at one point there was some hope that, maybe Shaw Farm or something else, and as it was said, we are a town that has a lot of land. It's a matter of the land that we own. But absolutely, I think it's something that hopefully we can continue the feasibility and keep encouraging the town that this is something we want to invest in. So hopefully that answers some of the question on the track.
I just want to say that I did offer to help, and I recently found out the stuff was happening and I would have come, and so please reach out or let me know, and happy to help.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna, as chair, speak into the questions related to the roles both of our director of IT and the interim superintendent that we appointed. I'll do my best to answer those. So first, starting with director of IT, there are licensing requirements for that position. Dan has met quite a bit of those and was working with Dr. Roberts and Randy to have to work underneath the superintendent who has a license to be able to do that. With her medical leave, that process has essentially stopped, and Dan has not taken on that role, so we do not have an assistant superintendent, so we can fill that. Dan has taken on additional responsibilities regardless of holding that position or not, and some of that is by nature of having Dr. Roberts or Randy on medical leave. So, with that being said, we don't have an assistant superintendent, we do have a director of IT. Transitioning then to having an interim superintendent, one of the requirements by the state is that we have a superintendent, and we have to have someone's name who holds a license, or at least holds an emergency license, to fill that role. Caitlin, who we put as interim superintendent while Dr. Roberts and Randy is out on leave, holds that license already, and so it's a natural fit for her to take on some of those responsibilities. Primarily, those responsibilities involve grants, because grants cannot be submitted to the state or to the federal government without having those. So we certainly need to make sure that that's the case. So she's done a lot of work on that. And then some of just the other kind of day-to-day, keeping the lights on, sort of stuff. A lot of the other administrators have also stepped in to take on some of those responsibilities. And if anyone's concerned about Caitlin not being able to fulfill the duties in the elementary or early learning building, a lot of these duties she's doing after hours on her own to pick up the interim superintendent position. And then we also have an assistant principal for those buildings as well. So again, I know that's kind of a broad overview, but if you have more specifics, feel free to reach out. But I definitely want to try and address it as much as I can.
Sorry, can I just say, of course, that the entire administration staff has stepped up and offered additional time to keep the district afloat, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. there's some questions about who oversees the different clubs in the district, as well as could we have a Bible club in the district. I'm newer to the district, but I can say that we have had a Bible club previously. Clubs usually come by interest of students, so if any student is interested in doing so, they certainly can reach out and we can work to build more clubs. As was mentioned, the clubs are constantly evolving and building, and growing, and changing. So if that's something that students are interested in, then I would highly encourage your students to express that concern, so that way we can build upon the clubs that are being offered in the district. Does anyone want to speak generally into the role of the school committee and what we kind of have authority over or not? Not that I don't want to be the only person speaking tonight. Sure. We'll start there.
It's certainly what I've been looking into, right? What's the role of the school committee? And there's some very good sites.
Can't hear.
State sites that describe it. It's not entirely clear, although I will tell you the biggest message in the sites that describe it is that we'll talk about a committee and an administration that work effectively together, that communicate well together, does better for everybody. That said, there are very specific laws around what the role of the school committee is. It has to do with budgets. It has to do with appointment of the superintendent and 4 or 5 other positions. I'll get wrong, the nurse, a couple others. But it is really very, very specific about after that, the role of the school committee would not be, we're not in charge of hiring and firing principals. It's really recommended, right? And I think there's a lot of logic to that you can have an issue. The classic example is, with the athletic director. My child didn't get enough play time in a sport, and you don't want that entering from the school. I go back again, while it is very clearly defined where the roles are, it is also very clearly indicating that committees that work well with the administration, that collaborate, do better, and I think that's important. In this town, I think historically we've done that, I think we continue to work that way. But there have been requests for, fire them all. That's really not what the board would do. The board would have to take a look at, and under the contract, if they thought it was not the direction they were looking for, we could work towards replacing the superintendent. In that sense, it's a pretty significant message. I hope we'll get a chance to speak later around where we support this now.
You can still set policy that.
Yeah, sorry. So the school committee also sets policy, and there's a very real function that the school committee sets the budget, so that if there are specific items, the school committee could impact the budget and try to change in that fashion. So they're in a lot, and it's why working together works far more effectively, because if you play around with the budget, you're going to run into a problem. The school committee doesn't set the framework. Some folks have mentioned that, what's going on with the state, what's the state pushing. That is set by the state. What are the frameworks? And the administration and teachers choose and develop a curriculum to meet the frameworks. The school committee can and does have influence on what books or what program was used. So if you said we want to follow this program and it's going to require additional books, that's something again in the budget we can impact.
The duty of the school committee is to write the policy for the district. I think that's where something that we need to keep in mind. The committee does have that responsibility and needs to step up and do that.
I know, speaking of those things, one of the comments and questions was related to the new health standards that are being pushed down from DESE. We can speak probably forever on this issue alone. This committee has recently been more made aware of those, both in tonight and kind of in the couple days preceding this. Our superintendent, Dr. Robertson, she's on there, I believe, was working with all the other superintendents in the Blackstone Valley as they were trying to figure out how to best interpret those. So that's kind of where that initial process starts, is looking at those things. It's not to say that we have to follow what all of those other districts do. Certainly, some of you mentioned that you like what one district does and what you don't like what another district does. And that's certainly fair. We are our own school system, so in some ways we got that right. But those conversations work at the beginning of how we interpret some of those processes and understanding what those things are. I know several of you probably in this room have already reached out to the principals of the buildings and asked some of those questions too. By all means, I'm not trying to throw you on the bus, but continue to do so. They should be hearing from you. We should be hearing from you. I'll add my 2 cents and then I'll stop talking about this because this is my own video, but that's what we're all here for. So we should be hearing from parents in our district. Just want to turn on this.
So the school committee can also appoint special committees, which is within their purview. And then DESI also gives you wide latitude in determining what is appropriate and age appropriate. So the school committee would certainly be within its rights to appoint a committee made up of parents that could weigh in and advise on that as well, rather than trusting or just relying on the superintendent to do so.
Correct. And there is a health committee comprised of parents already in our district that is helping to speak into a lot of those things. So you are correct, and we do set those kind of things. So I would certainly say that those parents should be speaking a little more into that. I also will say that while I appreciate the informality of some of this dialogue back and forth, the purpose was that everyone would be able to speak their opinion and that we could answer the questions, make sure we're not leaving anyone's questions off the table. Otherwise, we're going to start to go down a bunch of rabbit holes, and I'm not thinking that anyone really wants to be here till 3 or 4 a.m. so we can need to do that. I personally am well made aware of my information on the school's website. If you have specific questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I also know the primary focus of this evening is the Connections Conference, and there were some very specific questions about that. I'm going to let Mr. McCarthy start by talking about some of those things. I do want to speak into, there's some questions about the finances of the whole thing and how that fits. I know there was already a slide about this. Finances would, again, budget comes under the purview of the school committee. So that's something that this committee, should its members choose to do so, could have some sort of audit internally or externally review some of those numbers as we do often in different areas to look at how funds are spent or how money is collected for them. And with that, I'll let you answer some of the questions. Mr. McCarthy, that you were specifically asked about connections.
Sure. So again, if I forget a question, people will easily know how to get a hold of me and I'm happy to answer as well. There was a question about were teachers let out the day before to help with the conference. If you all remember, the Thursday before the conference was our water day. So there was actually no school for teachers that day. So the teachers who came into school we didn't shut the water off on ourselves. So the teachers who came into school did so off the road garden because we had the conference is a pretty big event, as you know. And they spent their day putting up signs and et cetera, all that stuff. There was another question about the internet filters. During the school day, the internet filter is set at the appropriate level. But as this was not a school day, it was a conference event. It is in any conference, social media is a big part of that. Students are on social media, so we released the internet filter for Instagram and Snap, whatever they use, so kids can communicate with each other via social media website. So that, whoever said that is true. Mr. Graham asked a question with the applicants, and that's no question. We would love for more boys to apply to Connections. And in fact, when we get the stereotypical soccer or basketball kid, that's a plus for us because it just speaks to why it's important. And I can just say from personal experience a couple of years ago, we had a couple of Connections kids who were on the basketball team, witnessed one of their teammates being targeted because of his race. They went over to the opposing athletic director, they highlighted his behavior, and they stopped the incident. So it just speaks to the power of that. You apply every year, we have approximately 40 to 45 kids who apply to Connections. So it's kind of impossible to have every single kid who applied be part of Connections. If that was the case, it would be 120 kids currently in Connections. So there is an application process. Certainly, the first level of the process is they have to answer an essay question, and so who answers the essay question best, that is usually a first entry in. Then we also look for other things too, like what's the makeup of the group? Are we representing all different kinds of groups in the school? Is there a student who applied for this that we know really isn't a part of anything else and it's going to make a big difference for them? So all of those factors go into creating the group so that it's a workable group. And again, the size of the group this year is around 4 kids. So that's the application process. Last year, we had students on the committee and they read the essay questions. This year, because of all the uproar, we just don't want kids associated with this anymore because of the vitriol that we get. We didn't have the process sheet because we didn't want any kids getting under the gate because they were selecting and not selecting, even though the names were ripped off of the application process. I think that is all the connection questions I have. Other than, a lot of the talk was about pushing an agenda. And again, I feel like I've covered that in the first part. I understand that we might just not agree and just see things a little bit differently.
I'm seeing facts.
And I would just like to say that, again, all we're trying to do is give kids an opportunity. The club is completely optional. The conference is completely optional. And that's all. We're just nothing about connections takes away anything from kids who are part of the technical program, or who are the student council, or who are in the engineering program. And all it is another opportunity for kids, and if your student doesn't want to participate in it, they're not required to. Does the committee have any questions?
Corey, what about the Corey check? How many were not Corey?
Those are questions that this committee could look into. I obviously don't know off the top of my head how many people were not agreed. Last time was not a formal school committee meeting. Again, I'm going to remind you, this is not supposed to be back and forth dialogue. Correct. And I am doing my best to answer as many questions as I possibly can.
So we can obviously look into the Corey check policy. We don't, and we can do that as a committee, but we have to meet as a committee to discuss it.
So we have another meeting next week? You have answers?
No.
Yeah.
So we can meet as a committee and talk and try to change policy. However, there are ramifications to changing the policy a certain way. Tonight we had the arts program. Should we have queried everybody that came in for the arts program?
Yeah.
It's something that we need to think about the policy.
Does anyone in this building of staff know if the people are quarried? This is what we're frustrated about. And maybe you guys are not answering the question, and maybe we don't know. Does the
I would say
you know?
I don't know.
So I guess the answer is, if you don't know, then they probably weren't quarried. Is that, can we agree to that?
So with us,
Mr. McCarthy, were they quarried? Were they quarried? Thank you for answering, thank you. Try to answer the damn question. Hold on a minute, So, wait a minute, Dave, I'm gonna sit down, but why didn't you answer that? Why did we go through this? Do you see why we're frustrated? Why couldn't you just be a man and someone's running the show and be transparent and say, you know what, we screwed up, we didn't quarry, or maybe we didn't screw up and we don't think we should quarry, but you're not answering the question, and now it's 11 o'clock and we're going through this. Don't insult our intelligence. It's so frustrating. You guys are young, at your age, doing your job. Take responsibility, come on. You just said it no because I had to press you. So I have to make a jerk of myself in front of everyone to get you to answer questions?
Say that's hate speech. I don't think that's hate speech. All I'm saying is...
It's not hate speech. It's not hate speech. You have to answer
It's not hate speech. Listen, here's the thing. For the connections conference, they were not quarried. And based on the policy, that may be the way that it's applied. A lot of times the Cory checks are for people that are left alone with kids. A certain volunteer and other things, when you be working specifically with them. When you're a chaperone or you're coming in to do reading, you're working directly with the kids. And all I'm saying is that you can look at the policy and type it up a bit.
Resign.
Just if we ask you a question, you know the answer, please just answer. Please just answer. Do us the respect.
There is a policy for checks.
There's also a dress policy that says any guest is to be held to the same standard as a student. The underwear should be covered. I have it. You want it? I have it right here. Underwear wasn't covered. He should have been taken off the property.
You guys get as much time as you want. We only get 3 minutes, and that's hey, I won't swear like some people in the community that support this whole thing, but this is ridiculous, Ben. You guys can't even answer questions directly. It's 11 o'clock at night on a Thursday. You're right, we don't want to be here. We're frustrated.
I
you guys talk
understand your
around
frustration,
issues.
sir. Please listen to me. I understand your frustration. This committee probably also shares those same frustrations. We are elected officials. We're not paid.
Yeah, you're not paid. I know you're not paid.
So we're all here
volunteers.
to try to make our district better.
So Ben, why did we have to press and stand up for 5 minutes before the question was answered? Why didn't Mr. McCarthy say they weren't Cory? Now, maybe that's right. I don't know. But why are we beating around the bush, guys? Do we ask our students to tell the truth? Or do we want them to lie, not tell the truth before we press?
Some number of weeks ago, I had an opportunity to speak to the superintendent before they got from the zone, and so, not from the committee, but I asked their question about the Cory, and you're right, they did not Cory, and I asked.
So why did we answer that? Why did we answer the question?
Well, because this is meant to be a school committee meeting.
It's meant to be. You said you were going to answer the question. The question was asked, were they Cory? And you said,
I didn't speak because I think that
well, he wasn't doing anything.
When I spoke with the superintendent, and they confirmed that they hadn't Cory, then we got into a discussion around how would you effectively Cory for events like that. And that hasn't been discussed by the committee, which makes it hard.
That was not the question. The question was asked, were they Cory?
They were not Cory.
We know that now because I had the president in my copy to answer the question. I feel like we're in a court like this is law and order here. Or Comedy Central. I don't know which one it is. It's yes or no, but they can't answer the question. And it's disappointing.
I'm not comfortable with getting answers because I'm never going to get through what I believe.
Well, if you folks would answer the questions we do know the answer, we could be out of here maybe by midnight. And I'm sorry to be a jerk, guys, as that means me. I'm sorry.
I'm trying really hard to respect the board and how the board works and the control of the chair, and I think that's important to work.
It's frustrating.
I get it.
No, it's for it. So we can move on. Next one.
There is a policy on Cory checks. There is a dress code policy. I don't believe that Cory checks were done on people that came. The policies are currently being reviewed. My understanding from the last time I read the Cory policy is that anybody that has direct contact with students should be Cory.
Thank you.
As for the dress code, I don't remember the exact words, but I know when I read it, I said to myself, if any student or staff member came into the school dressed like that, the staff member would be dismissed and the student would be sent home.
I'm going to ask if this committee has any other comments they want to add, that they can do so at this time.
Move that the school committee request the business office to conduct an independent financial audit of any and all expenses and revenues related to the 2024 Connections Conference.
Motion has been made. I will second that motion. On this committee before we take a vote.
Second.
I welcome that.
Okay, in that case, we will take a vote of this committee.
Darling, aye.
Brennan,
Jerome, aye.
Edwards, aye.
Gibbons, aye. Motion passes. Any other comments that this committee would like to make?
I have 2 pages of comments. And while I understand the frustration, I do think it's important that you get feedback from members of the committee. There have been multiple questions around where you stand. It's a difficult format, and I appreciate that, but I think it's important that people know where I stand. So in a particular order, what we heard tonight, what several of us heard, a couple of us heard on the 22nd, and what everybody had an opportunity to watch from that meeting. Just pieces I took back, because the way this works is you've got 5 members of the board. We learned, Nate and I said, we were trying to learn. It influences how we vote, how we think, what we ask for. I heard it. It's true divisive, right? This part of the event was divisive and not inclusive to the drag. And it wasn't lost on me. Drag is seen as liberal and sexualized. There's a very different point of view, opinion on that. I think we can agree or we disagree on that. I don't see it as that, but I hear you, and I think it was voiced well, and I understand it. Students who don't agree are afraid to speak their mind. I've heard that over and over again, and I think that's important to hear. Does Sutton have a problem? Why are we even driving this? How important is it to this town? I heard that. Steady push from the left, driving an agenda, and the indoctrination. Again, not one person. It's come up several times. Important to me, and I'm not sure where I'll answer on that, but the religious impression, the feeling of sort of a moral insult based on what happened. The sense of danger to the kids by bringing in drag without authority. I heard it. We need a full tallying of the costs. Again, multiple people. Parents were clearly surprised. Not all parents, but parents were clearly surprised. Things we've heard, things I understand, things that change or influence where I stand. I had open questions of better financial accounting. Do we have good accounting of that? It's been a very difficult question to answer, so it's part of why I think it makes sense to be doing that. Better description of the goals of the conference. I think Mr. McCarthy did a very good job of sharing that. It's been consistent. It might not be what people agree with, but I think that's been described. And then the open question around committee responsibility and how do we answer that? It's a partial answer. It's one that I think we keep looking at. I'm going to jump just to a couple of facts. Somebody mentioned the LGBTQ percentages, Massachusetts sites. So I didn't do a bunch of sites, but about 5.5% of adults, about 21% LGBTQ are raising children. So it isn't 1%. It also isn't the majority. Sites that I do trust that I went to: Boston Scientific, Thermo Fisher, Alexion Pharmaceutical, Fidelity, Raytheon, Staples, Mass Mutual, Boston Dynamics, Walmart, I got those because there are top employers in Massachusetts and the IBEW. All of them have DEI concepts that they talk about, that they promote. Most of them in their career sites where they're trying to bring on staff, some of them with pride flags. This is, for me, became important because it speaks to, are we teaching children about DEI and will that help them in the future? Major employers that I see do look at that. So my position, and it's a couple, and it's been terribly difficult. I made X, or I'm told it's really Twitter, right? I finally got on. There's a little clip of me from that 2-hour and 15-minute meeting, and if you watch it carefully, I support, and then I say, and it gets cut, because that's not, we just want this piece. So I get a chance, right? And y'all can leave, it's a school committee meeting that's been moved this way, but it's, I think, important it's recorded and you understand where I stand. I support the Connections program, I support CONCOM. I think it's been very important to the district, and I'm proud of what it's done. And I'm really proud of the emails of students who have been through it and how well they wrote. I personally didn't have an issue with the drag. I will tell you, I get it. I see it differently than others see, and I understand why they complain about it. I have a real issue with the treatment of property. I think we need to have a policy.
Let him speak, please.
I think we need to look at our policy around when people are using our assets, the town's assets, are they being treated properly? Dancing on the table, regardless of what you're wearing, is something that we should find a way to avoid. I wish that the attire and performance of the world was closer to what you see in the news with the drag readings in the library. I think the message that CONCON and Connections is trying to put forward, it's lost with the insults that many people feel.
And it goes on both sides too. They go there on the fans.
What I'm saying is they're lost by the people who rightfully speak because they feel insulted. And how we fix that is an interesting question. I don't see high school kids as impressionable as many people have rightfully expressed. I'm surprised that high school kids understand drag.
Excuse me, through the chair. My name is Pam Nichols. I work for the town of Sutton. I'm the communications director. When you guys shout out my thing, because I have filmed this committee with many nights and the room's been empty, and I love that you're all here, and my job is to make this as transparent as possible. But when you guys speak out with not into a microphone, the live stream people that are watching, we still have lots of viewers, cannot hear any of it because it's not on a microphone.
The people who are watching should know that the people here are upset, and then maybe they'll show up
It's
too.
not my decision, this was how the committee set it up.
We're all here.
I get it, you had your public discussion, this is how they set it up. I'm really just trying to do my job and be transparent and let you guys continue, but you guys are making it very difficult for me to do my job.
I'm worried about the message that we send to kids. I get that we need to figure out a better approach. I still worry about the message we send to the kids. I'm not sure how to work that out, and I think we will over time. But the notion that we've developed kids who have clearly gone out into society and done very well. There's this balance between what we get so that everybody can accept it without it being a message that says, you can be a little bit of this, but not too much of this. I also am I'm concerned about how much this piece has set off what has been just a spectacular district that focuses on so many other things. Promising, down towards the end. Sort of outside of Concon, but learning for me in this space is I don't yet have a good solid answer on too much politics in the school. Again, message after message, how do you interpret into this the perception, whether it's real or not, that children with a different political view are frightened to speak, or that teachers are pushing a political agenda. Whether it's true or not, if there's a perception there, what do we do to make that more clear?
You get rid of connections. That's it. Very simple.
As I said, if there are children, and we heard it, who say they can't offer that conservative view without being bullied, or if there's a student who does their homework and says, I know exactly how to write it to hit the political buttons of the teacher, then if that's real or not, we need to be able to address and understand it. It's not something I think gets done tonight, but I think it's something I can get. I'm sort of where the rest, where Mr. McCarthy was saying, I don't know what the other side of the DEI is. I hear woke, I hear the indoctrination, I hear a lot of the other terms which I'm just not there on. I think this is DEI, and I still struggle with what the other side of that is.
The other side is grade 1 and grade 8, you know.
So then I'm gonna just do, in my mind, a question outside of that is, what are we doing to bring the community back together to agree to disagree, but recognize the pieces that we're doing that are right and improve the pieces that we don't agree on. I think that's important that we take away.
It's sexualization of children. There is nothing to agree to disagree about. There's other places in the town that have this.
I don't understand how we run a meeting like this where there's somebody who doesn't live in the town.
Please let the committee.
You want to hear from the committee, you don't want to hear from the committee. I just don't think that's appropriate.
Can we please let the committee members now speak? I will say this before I invite anyone else to speak on this committee. This committee represents a wide variety of viewpoints. So if you want to hear how everyone thinks or their responses, you need to let them talk. So please allow that to happen. We were respectful, we listened to all of your time. Now it's time for the committee to be able to address their comments and concerns. Anyone else on the committee have anything they want to say?
I asked a question about a grant. I think that's what started all of this. I'm not sold on the answer I got that we can use the grant and what we use the grant for to pay for the speaker. I don't believe that that was the intent of the grant. What really bothered me most and caused me to ask the question was a grant that was written for the district, and you're taking a part of it for one specific small group. I have an issue with that.
I'm not a school day.
It led me to, is this what I want my tax dollars spent on? It's not. I want my tax dollars spent in a school system where we can have smaller class sizes in the elementary school, where we send our kids to school and we teach our kids how to think, not what to think. For me, this is not an LGBTQ issue. Not one bit. I think that there is a place And I think that some of the work that Connections does is very good. I think it's crossed the line for me. And that's what's causing the problem. I think that we're at a point now where people are pushing an agenda, and I don't think it's their place to push an agenda to my children in the school. And I would say, my children are out of school now. So if they were in school, I would be very, very upset. I wouldn't be sitting at this table, I'd be sitting out there with you. And that's my issue right now. I think we can coexist, both sides of the issue. But there has to be some understanding and some give and take. I will present some ideas to the committee when we meet, because they've not completely vetted them all out. And I will close by saying this. John, you're welcome in my house anytime.
I'm not going to be nearly as eloquent or prepared, but I do appreciate the words that have been said. And, you know, I was very frustrated. We've gotten so many emails from many folks. I tried to whittle it down, more specifically to focus on the people that are from this town, or people that are students, alumni. You know, and it's tough, because you come to public forums and it depends which way the crowd sways. It's tough, and I question myself. You know, you tend to hang out with like-minded people, and I question, you know, my views, the things that I'm thinking. Am I getting the full picture? So, you know, that's why I found it important to try to have that meeting on the 22nd. I wanted to hear from people. I think that's important. I think I'm pretty open-minded. I view this job, I don't have an agenda. I never had an agenda coming into this. I was asked to join school committee. I've never run opposed. I don't think it's because I didn't do an exceptional job. I think, unfortunately, a lot of times people just don't want to put in the effort. So I appreciate anybody that fills any town position. You know, because I think most of them, for these, you don't get paid. You just put your time in because you care. And I think that's important. And I do appreciate, as the chairman said, this is a pretty diverse committee in regards to our views. We have different views on things. I have appreciated the input from folks. You wouldn't know it, but a majority of the emails were very supportive. We had quite a few from students and alumni talking about how important this was. Very touching, emotional emails. You know, like it or not, I will tell you from my perspective, I support Connections. I will continue to support Connections. And I do like the administration. I think they're doing a great job. Is there always things that we can do better? Absolutely. And I also recognize we're not always all going to see eye to eye. We have different views on many things. I'm just going to try to do the best that I can with the information that I have. It's not always going to line up with everybody, because we have many people we're trying to support and many students. Thank you.
I'm not going to read everything that I wrote because it's very redundant. I echo a lot of these sentiments of everybody. As I look out in the crowd, I know a lot of your kids. Like me, I was asked to join school committee. I volunteer from the time my son was in kindergarten. My oldest is now in 7th. There was 1 week I volunteered at an event at the high school. I then went to the middle school program, and then I followed it up that same day with enrichment. I don't recommend doing that, but I am in the school a lot, and a lot of the negative words that I've heard, I don't see. I haven't heard it from my kids. I'm very proud to be a part of the Sutton community. I've been to Connections the last 2 years. I didn't go to the whole thing. The first year I picked my workshops. I have an engineering background, so I kind of did the sciencey things. I don't remember the workshops I chose, but that was just my comfort zone. This year I was only able to attend the first keynote speaker, and this place was incredible. I videoed it. It was amazing. I was so grateful that I got to be here. I didn't want to take up any room. I was up high, like not where I was supposed to be. I was let up there. But it was a great perspective just to see this place filled with so much love and energy and acceptance. So I support the administration. I look forward to my boys hopefully coming to the high school one day or wherever they want to go. I will accept them. That's the most important thing, is I want students, I want the community to feel like they have a place. And it makes me sad that some people don't have that support.
What if their teachers give them puberty blockers without you knowing about it?
We're going to let the committee address their comments and thoughts. We provided the opportunity for everyone to have the opportunity to speak. Over the past, at least week, I have probably spent upwards of 10 hours within our building, meeting with various administrators, teachers, some other department heads. I've talked with a lot of parents, some of you are in this room. I think it's very clear that this is an issue that has become incredibly divisive in our town. If anyone reached out to me, almost 3 weeks ago now, I was very specific in my response. And I will say that publicly here, which is that I thought the drag queen performance went too far and should not have been in our school. I will say it here too for record, but if you reached out to me beforehand, you already know that's my position about that. I think one of the things that this committee and this group of parents needs to start thinking about in relation to everything that happens is what's the educational value and what's the significance of it. And if we can't address the educational benefit of some of those things, then we need to start taking a hard look at why we're talking about it. And sure, we're probably going to come at that from different viewpoints. As you've already heard from the other members of this committee, we all will come at it differently too. But the focus of this committee and of the purpose of these meetings has always been and should remain our students. I joined this committee 3 years ago because my daughter was entering preschool. And I wanted to ensure that this district continued to develop and continue to be better and better every single year she was in. I hope that these things are a reminder for everyone to be involved in your kids' lives, both in school, at home, whether it's in sports or arts, doesn't matter. I'll leave it at that. I know that some of you are very tired, I get it. My contact information is on the school's website. You are more than welcome to reach out. I hope that if you have, I've given you a response. If I missed it, please forward it again and tell me that I missed something and that you want a response. I will do my best to find an answer for you. With that, I'm going to move us to new business and see if any of these committee members have new business they want to bring up.
I'll mention it at our next meeting too, but you can find on the Sutton Memorial High School Facebook page some great announcements. One in particular, the state championship of the esports team, Coach Delica and the esports team won in Mario Kart Stadium, so that's another state championship. I think that's good to recognize. I'll do that at our next meeting, hopefully normal, back to how we normally broadcast. And then also wanted to mention the Sutton Drama Club earned 3 TMA awards for their Christmas Carol musical. That was excellent. Really well. That was a wonderful play, and it's great that they were recognized for I just, I want to make sure that we recognize the great things that the school does. So, yeah.
Anyone else, any other business?
I see Sutton romantic care, and I will echo what he says at every select board meeting, and that is, please remember the food pantry in town. People are hungry 365 days a year, not just at the holidays.
In that case, I will take the motion to adjourn.
Good Friday. What about Good Friday?
Come see me. It's been first and second for this meeting to be adjourned. I'll need a roll call vote.
Darling, aye.